Oh, yeah. I am awake and alive.
I'm so great, I gotta say it twice and cut it out once. My head's a syrup bottle that's getting tipped over every Wednesday. You're a storyteller in a storytelling podcast, and the only story you're telling now is a story about stories you don't want to tell. What the fuck? Hey, what's happening? Mike Schmidt, 40-Year-Old Boy Podcast. I have just spent 40 minutes bitching to Lily about something that I can't tell you folks about. How about that? Take that home. Take that with yourselves. That's Lily. She's a producer of the show. I feel stupid. Here's how dumb I am, all right? I feel like I need to clarify. There are new listeners this week. Maybe. And I know you're shaking your head at me. I know you are, because I told Lily about this already. I don't know if you guys are aware of this. Earlier this week, I was involved in an activity that was in a courtroom, and I was not a defendant. I was involved in a jury duty situation, and I will get to that in a minute. But the people that were involved in said jury duty with me, at the end of the last time I was there, all right, I'm not going to give anything away, but the last time I saw them, as I was parting ways with them, I said, hey, I do a podcast, and I'll be talking about what happened this past week. And some of them said, oh, that sounds cool. And they wrote down, they were like, what's the name of it? And they're like putting the 40-year-old boy into their phones. And then I handed a guy one business card that I have left from like 2009. You know what I mean? And so those people may be on board. And here's what's stupid, folks. In my head, there were like 4 of them who expressed an interest. So now I feel like I need to absolutely define this show for those 4 people. They are literally, I've got 10,000 of you a week listening to this fucking show, give or take, and I've got 4 possibly new people, and I feel like I need to start from the beginning and clarify exactly what they're getting into. Although, let's be honest, whatever the running time for this show is scared them away the second they fucking saw it. They went to download it, they saw whatever it is, and they said, yeah, fuck it, we can't do this. And I don't blame them. They already spent a fucking week with me. The last thing I want to do is spend another 3 hours with me, for God's sake. And by the way, if this show is 3 hours, hammer me. I mean, seriously, write me emails and tell me what the fuck is. I don't want it to be 3 hours. What time is it now?
It is 4:09.
It's 4:09, folks. It's Formula 4:09. It is a cleaner. This is a clean slate. That's what we have right now, and I do not want to be here for 3 goddamn hours. I don't. I want to try to make this show palatable for all the 4 people. That's all I want to do. The rest of you, the other 9,996 of you, you guys all know what I do, and you're excited about long shows. I don't know if you've heard, there's 4 people on board that we have to cater to this week. I don't even want to say their names. Like I know their names, and I thought about that because that's the thing is they don't know what they're getting into. I just told them I do a podcast, and to them, they may know what fancy podcasts are, like Marin and that, but they don't know what my fucking ridiculous ghetto podcast is. It's a show where I give the real name of everybody I just dealt with, and I ruin them. So they're just right now they're like, oh my god. And if they're listening now at this second, you 4, you know who you are. UCLA, you know who you are. Pasadena, you guys know who you are. You're just sitting there and you're going, he's not going to say our names, is he? Holy shit, he's not going to say our names. Here's the best part. I don't know. I might not. It may get blurted out at some point. Now, you know what? Here's the best part. I may just slip it in for fun and not acknowledge that it's you, but you'll know that it's you, and we'll all share an in-joke together. Me and 4 of you. It doesn't matter. Are they gone? You guys gone? They're gone. All right, they stopped listening. Hi, back to the regular crew. Hi, everybody. By the way, I don't know if you're aware of that. I refer to you as the regular crew. How stupid would that be? Hey, we got to show up for the regular crew yet? The regular crew is getting impatient. You need to get a show up for these people. God forbid we keep the regular crew waiting. By the way, folks, let me reach out to the regular crew. Hey, are there any doctors out there? I know there's nurses. There are nurses who listen to the show. Our friend John is a nurse, and I think there's a couple others. Our friend Suze is a nurse. She's the best. Here's the thing. I'll tell you this. You know, not only have I had a weird week of having to go to a building all the time and not sleeping, I'm fried, man. I can't lie to you, folks. I am fucking fried. Like I don't say this as a way to make you feel weird. I don't want to be talking to you right now. Like I don't want to. I'm in a fucking coma. Like I'm still zombified from fucking 6 days of irregular sleep and not sleeping. I mean, for one day I was up 31 hours in a row, and then got to sleep for 2 hours, and then had to be up for another like 15 hours. I mean, it's just crazy, and I'm feeling the effects of it. And so I've sat here. What time is it now?
It is 4:38.
4:38. That'll just tell you we stopped because I looked at Lily and I just shook my head. And she hit stop. She's like, "What?" And I go, I can't talk. Like, I don't know what to say. My head's not working." And she's like, "Well, you're fine. Just talk to the regular crew. They know what you do. That's fine." And I said, "I understand that, but I can't." And now again, all I'm doing now is navel gazing, and I don't mean to do that, but that's what I got. It's what I got for you this week, folks. So I reach out to a doctor, and Lily hates when I do this, and I know there are other people too. They're just like, "Well, why do you talk about the process?" Because I do. I fucking do. All right, that's kind of what it's about for me. Is it's part of doing a show off the top of your head is talking what's in your head, and what's in my head right now is explaining to you why I'm not in my fucking head so much, or why I am too much in my head. You don't fucking care. I should shut the fuck up. All right, why am I even here? Why am I even here? Seriously, it's like. Because Lily said to me, she goes, "Do you just want to bail?" And all right, and she says that every week. All right, I should tell you this: every week I'll be here and I'll be sitting here staring, and she's just like, "Look, you gotta fucking stop this. You know, you're brooding and you're in your head, and you gotta stop." And I'm just like, "Well," and again, this is going to sound ridiculous to people, right? And I know it's dumb. I'll just go, "I'm not funny. Like, I mean, it's just there's no funny here." And she'll go, "What are you talking about? You've talked for 2 hours." And I go, "Yeah, I know, but there's no funny in it." And she's just like, "You're crazy." But that's. You're all hard on yourselves at your jobs, I would imagine. I do the same thing here, because there is no script. There's no. It's just out of. By the way, if those 4 people were here, they're gone. They're fucking gone. Actually, this whole open is just a way to chase those 4 people away, so they don't hear me talk about what we did together. So they don't hear me slip in their names because I have some terrible things to say about them later. Oh my God. But the good news is they're gone now because I talked about my process and I'm a fucking hamster in a wheel. This whole show is I'm in a wheel just fucking running and spinning. God damn it. And I don't know. Maybe this doesn't bother you because there are people who are like, we like the nuts and bolts of stand-up. We like to hear about the nuts and bolts and the behind the scenes of acting or writing. There is no behind the scenes here. This is the scenes. All right? You're not behind the scenes. This is the scenes. This is the fucking news. I'm telling you right now. This is difficult, and some weeks it can be more difficult than others because if I don't hit a fucking comedy vein, then I'm just going to go in a straight line because I love running downhill. I love talking and rolling downhill and being funny. We should cut all this out. Honestly, this is really right. Shouldn't we? No, we should because nobody gives a fuck. Nobody gives a fuck about this. Yeah, you're like, keep going forward because you just want me to finish talking and get the fuck out of your house. But like other people are just like, dude, you got to fucking, why are you telling all this stuff to us? And I don't know. Because I got nothing else. You know what? Because again, I arbitrarily impart some sort of weird thing where I have to have a ramp up and then I talk about what happened. Well, dude, because I did nothing this week. The only fucking thing I did this week was jury duty. And so I should just talk about it. But in my head, I think that I got to tap dance early and get, you know what? Here's the open of the show. Like, this is the monologue. I can do a fucking stupid monologue before we get into the meat of the show and I interview people. But unfortunately, there's nobody getting interviewed at the end of the fucking show. The entire show is monologue. So why the fuck would I say that the opening is monologue and then we move into the actual show? This is the fucking show, stupid. See, this is it. This is my fucking head. All right. So, Lily's making notes. She's writing things down. That's not good. Whenever she writes things down, it's very bad because that means she's going to hold it up later and something like, "I quit." What was I talking about? Oh, doctors. Dude, listen to me. Here's another bad thing that's happening to me. All right. I've been in jury duty for the past week and, really? All right.
Anytime you start to doubt yourself, I'm just going to hold it.
All right, good. There's a new sign that Lily has made for me, and it just says, "This is the show, idiot." Because the show is just me talking in circles, I suppose, and but people want to hear me talk in circles about like spiders and storm drains and things like that, or the faceless with pajamas. People want to hear those sorts of things. Nobody wants to hear me talk in circles about how difficult it is to talk in circles. That's fucking terrible. Nobody wants to fucking hear that. I can hear fucking radio snapping off all over the goddamn world. That seems grandiose. That really, first of all, you're not listening to me through a radio. You got me plugged in your iPod vagina. And second of all, the world, really? That seems a little large in scope. I just acquired a guy from Pasadena this week. So all of a sudden, you know what? Actually, Pasadena was the last place I needed to cover. So now that's it. The new dude from Pasadena has clinched it. I now have the world under my spell. The regular crew equals the world. Right, Sri Lanka? Speak up. Raise your hand. But not too high. You'll be beaten by the government. All right, so They frown upon hands to the sky as if you're worshiping a false idol, because that's how it works in Sri Lanka, folks. Raise your hand, get beaten down. So don't raise your hand, Sri Lanka. Just say yes. Well, no, don't do that either, because you might be in a government office and again you'll be beaten down. A lot of beatings happening in Sri Lanka. I've never been. I should go. Wouldn't that be good? Let's take the show on the road. There's a good idea. That'd be perfect. This is the show on the road, idiot. Oh, we do that. Then you make a new fucking sign. You don't even want to look. You don't even want me in your house, let alone to travel with me somewhere. All right. Doctors. A couple of weeks ago, folks, I was involved in something called the Warrior Dash. It was a run in Portland, the way some people did it. I didn't exactly make it a run. I ran some of it, jogged, sort of, and then I steamrolled through some of it, and then a lot of it I just kind of hobbled through. Well. And then afterwards, I had terrible effects. As I mentioned, I was, my Charlie horses, and I couldn't stretch, and things were bad, and my hips, and whatever the fuck. That's fine, because I'm old and I'm fat. But we're now 3 weeks out from said race, 2 weeks, I think, and I'm starting to think that I did some damage to myself. Because before it was like that thing where I've done this a million times. You throw yourself too hard into a workout and you're like, fuck, I better, give myself a couple of days. And then when you do, you start to come around. I'm actually getting worse. And this is going to sound weird. So I'm throwing this out to you for a diagnosis because look, I've already gone to the internet and the internet has told me terrible things about myself. As I knew, because I had a general starting point of what I think is wrong. And because I'm fat, so my knees are in a constant, they're strained anyway, okay? And as I've gotten heavier, it's like it's not good. When I used to be super fat, it was bad. I had to take stairs one at a time. It was real bad. I'm not that bad now, but I still have arthritis in my knees, just a little bit. Well, when I got back from the race, my legs were all fucked, period. Well, now it's been 2 weeks, and everything's kind of straightened itself out, the muscles and everything, except... my knees. My left knee is loose. If I plant wrong, it gives to the left or to the right, and it didn't used to do that. And also, it's kind of in pain all the time. Like there's a throb, which is fine, and it's swollen. My knee is still swollen, but the pain is behind the kneecap on the upper left-hand side. And then it extends down the outside of my leg into my calf. If I cross my legs, or even if I just turn my leg a certain way, all of a sudden I will have pain that shoots through my knee and my calf, and I have to turn my knee back, which did not work very well in a jury box. I can tell you that. I kept shifting, and I'll get to that in a minute. But so I'm looking for a diagnosis from you guys, because I thought, first I thought and also my knee's real heavy. When I move my knee, it's not clean. Like it feels like there's stuff. It's not making noise. Actually it does snap. Let's see if we can get it to snap right now. Hold on. You can hear it snap, but it snaps like that all the time. Whenever I move it, it's I have arthritis where it sounds like there's, somebody stepped on a bag of Doritos in my fucking knee. That happens sometimes too. But now if I have my leg in a certain position, I move it and it'll snap, which you might not have heard that, but it did. It made a loud snap here in Lily's house, and it happens all the time. So I'm trying to figure out what the hell's wrong with my leg. And I put weight on it, and like I said, it's loose. It kind of moves to the right or to the left. So in my head, I was like, well, do I have fluid on the knee? Or do I have a subluxation of the knee? Or do I have a torn ACL? Or do I have a torn MCL? There's no way I have a torn ACL, because I would have to be superhuman to not, because it's in pain, but it's not the kind of pain that's debilitating to me. But then I read about a torn ACL, and they're like, well, you would be in pain and you would probably fall down. But they said there are people who can actually muddle their way through. It depends on your tolerance. And I do okay with pain. But I'm not sure. So whatever, I'm throwing it out to you folks. And that's always the best thing. Crowdsource your injuries. This is what happens when you don't have insurance, folks. You crowdsource your debilitating injuries in your legs to find out what people seem to think. But yeah, the weird thing to me, like I said, is the knee is the knee. That happens. It's like the pain is behind the kneecap, and it's loose. And there's also pain on the upper left-hand side, on either side of the kneecap, the upper kneecap, okay? But the thing that's weird to me is the pain that goes down into my calf. I don't understand that. And it's not through my calf muscles. It's just the side of my leg. All right. So it doesn't spread to the back of the calf muscles themselves. It's just literally the left-hand side, the outside of the leg. And like I said, I went and looked, and it said a torn ACL, said that it might have that happen. But there's no way I have a torn ACL because I wouldn't be able to go up and down stairs because I walk up and down stairs at work all the time. So who knows? And I wouldn't be able to fucking walk, period. Fuck stairs. So who knows? I'm trying to figure it out. So I throw it out to you folks. Tell me what's wrong with me. That's it. I demand that you tell me what's wrong with me. And also, if any of you are doctors and you say to yourselves, hey, I'd love to take a look at your knee for free, Mike, well, that's great. I would be happy to give you a t-shirt and a download set if you would go ahead and take a look at my leg. That's what I have to barter with, folks. I have merch. That's all I have. I get fucking, 40-year-old boy swag that I can send your way, autographs and of artwork and all sorts of bullshit that I'm sure you already have or you don't want, but that's all I have at this point. That's what I can give you. That's what I can offer you. That's what I can trade you to go ahead and take a look at my leg. And by the way, you need to be a professional. I don't need some hobo coming in and going, hey, I'll take a look at your leg. Of course you will, because I have great gams. But I don't need you stepping up and thinking that you can go ahead and cure me, and then you go ahead and put your filthy hobo hands on me, and then all of a sudden I get a staph infection. My leg is bad enough, all right? I don't need you filthy hobos putting your hands on it and giving me a staph infection. By the way, how are hobos listening to this show? How would that happen? What if there was like a hobo central or some shelter and they played me over the loudspeakers for hobos? Dude, what if I had a hobo army? Holy shit, I like that plan. Let's get the homeless shelters to fucking sponsor me, play the show out loud for these guys as they sleep and eat, and I will have a hobo army at my command. God damn it. But don't play all the shows where I made fun of hobos, because the hobo army would turn on me, and then it would be the island of Dr. Moreau. And then they would fucking tear me asunder, and I can't have that happen. I cannot have my life end at the hands of hobos. I have much bigger plans for myself, folks. I can't be torn apart by hobos like the end of fucking Suddenly last summer. Although I don't think that was hobos. That was actually just street youths who had been raped by Montgomery Clift. All right, so, you know what? I'll tell you what. If any street youths out there who were raped by Montgomery Clift want to tear me asunder, go ahead. Bring it on. You're probably old and debilitated at this point, and I'll just remind you of the fact that you were raped by Montgomery Clift, and I'll cripple you where you stand. You can't handle me. Why is that sad for you? Really? Did you know? Do you have friends who were raped by Montgomery Clift? Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot how much the man got around. God damn you, Montgomery Clift. Look at all the lives you've ruined. And now you've got this steaming crew of children out in the street waiting to tear me apart because of your actions. Fuck you, Clift. All right. How did I go from having a hobo army to being torn apart by street hustlers who were raped by Montgomery Clift? That's terrible. 1 second, I'm on top of the world. Me and my hobos are taking it over. We're getting 1 quarter at a time. And the next thing you know, my guts are being ripped out. My entrails are being torn apart. My legs are being ripped from my body by a ton of peasant-clad street hustlers who had the misfortune of falling upon Montgomery Clift. You don't want to be in Clift's clutches. You do not want to be in Clift's clutches. And I'm sure this is going to cause a problem with Montgomery Clift's hobo army. I'm sure they're going to be very upset with me. They're going to write me with their hobo pads. They don't have iPads. They have hobo pads. Yeah. God damn it. That's perfect. We need to do that. Let's develop a line of computers that we can give the hobos so they can stay in constant contact with one another. Although, let's be honest, we see the hobos talking on the street. They're all talking to one another. Somehow, there's some sort of hobo broadcasting system where they can hear each other and their rantings in the air. Because there was a hobo code that used to be drawn on houses to tell you that you'd stop by and have pie. Now there's just this series of hobo microchips implanted in the hobos. God damn it, that's perfect. Oh my God. You know what I need? I need Dr. Anthony Zerba from fucking Kiss Meets the Phantom at the Park. Because he was taking real people and then turning them into the death robots. I need my own Dr. Anthony Zerba who will go ahead and fucking and make the hobo army out of hobos for me. And then I can send them to do my bidding. Or I could teach them surgery to fix my leg. That's what I need to do. Seconds ago, I did not want your filthy hobo hands on me. But now, if you scrub up hobos and I learn you some basic scalpel skills, this is going to work. That's what I need to do. I need to turn the hobos into surgeons so they can fix my leg. We have all of this manpower at our disposal, folks. Why aren't we doing something about it? Next time a hobo asks you for a quarter, hand him a medical journal. He will learn how to cure you. Eventually, the hobo will be your friend. You're taking care of your own future, folks, because you're guaranteeing your health in the future. Because that hobo will never forget you. He will learn, and then he will be there for you when your insurance runs out, because it's going to, folks. with NAFTA and whatever the fuck else corporations are doing. Like, yes, I'm way behind the times with NAFTA. I don't care. I don't care about politics. All I'm telling you is right now corporations don't care about you at all, and they're cutting your insurance. We need the hobos to learn surgery. That's what we need. Give him a medical journal. Give a hobo a fish, and he'll eat for a day. Teach a hobo to fish, and eventually he'll be able to fix your ACL. That's how it works. I used to do that joke on stage. Give a man a fish, he'll eat for a day. Teach a man to fish. You are spending way too much fucking time with that guy. How hard is it to learn to fish? Fucking worm on hook and go to the water. Done. Grab a trout. Get out of my hair, motherfucker. Why am I teaching you to fish? And I understand it's a parable, folks, but that's why I exist. I exist to defeat parables in their natural habitat. Throw a parable my way, I will fucking defeat it. I'll tear it asunder. I'll be torn apart, as if I were some sort of street urchin who had been raped by Montgomery Clift. I can't control myself. Has my hobo rampage gotten us to 20 minutes yet? It has? Good. Throw in a break so I can go punch myself in the fucking face.
Hey, I'm Paul Gilmartin, and you're listening to the podcast most likely to come to life and punch you in the face. The 40-Year-Old Boy on the Mike Schmidt Podcasting Network. Don't forget to duck.
Oh!
Runaround Sue.
Is it Runaround Sue? I have something for that.
All right, wait.
Do it.
I'm gonna do the whole beginning. Should've known it from the very start. This girl would leave me with a broken heart. Some people were telling you,
Keep away from Runaround Corey Oslin. That worked, right?
okay.
What? Because what rhymes with fucking Oslin?
With a smile on her face, touch of her hand, and them girls won't embrace. Some people were telling you.
I said it once. Runaround Corey Oslin.
Hip,
Hey. Oh. Whoa.
hip.
Whoa. Aww. Corey Oslin. I think I got nothing. I just want to say his name over and over. Jury duty, folks. It's funny in the movie Heathers, there's that song, Teenage Suicide, Don't Do It. They should rewrite it for jury duty, quite frankly. And by they, I mean the producers of Heathers, because they haven't done anything since then, I'm pretty sure. Except for the fact that they sold the idea and they're now remaking Heathers, which they're remaking Heathers. Just like Spike Lee is remaking Old Boy, which I heard that, and I mean, look, good for you. I don't know why, because he's not going to be able to make it anywhere near as good. And that's nothing against Spike Lee. It's just Old Boy lends itself to being made in a foreign land where that sort of thing can be made properly. Here, they're never going to let them get away with a ton of stuff. I'm really looking forward to Josh Brolin trying to kill 45 guys with a hammer. That's going to be fun to watch. And Samuel L. Jackson is in it now, and I enjoy Samuel L. Jackson in theory. All right. I like when Tarantino uses him because he uses him sparingly, and he uses him in certain, he's had starring roles and he's had cameo roles. But Samuel L. Jackson has become a parody of himself. We all agree with that, right? Even on Twitter, he's a parody of himself. Go follow him on Twitter. It's the funniest, because he is, and he's still funny. He's a really funny, smart guy, but it's still, if you read his tweets and his voice, you're just like, yeah, that's him. I mean, he's become a parody of himself, and there's nothing wrong with that, because the guy used to be a crackhead, and then he got famous for being a very good actor, and so why wouldn't he make movies? It's so funny to me when people get pissed off at actors because they work. It's the dumbest thing in the world. Oh, this guy keeps making movies. Well, yeah, that's what he fucking does. Who gives a shit if he churns it out? Because he wants cash. Like Travolta. Everybody got all over Travolta because, oh my God, he won't turn a role down. That motherfucker was doing nothing for like 8 years other than getting thetans banned out of his body and getting jerk-off massages, and you're pissed at him now because he takes every role that comes along? Why the fuck wouldn't he? The guy's got to pay for e-meters. I mean, why not? He's got to give Kelly Preston so much hush money. I can't even imagine. How much money do you think he pays her a week just to keep her mouth shut, right? But actually, she's a Scientologist too, so maybe she's sworn to uphold. I don't know how they fucking work it. Again, like I said, if they want me to get involved, call me. If you could make me famous, I'll trade it off. I'll sit in a room and do e-meters and thetans and all that bullshit if I can be rich. Fine with me. Jerk off Travolta, I'm in. Done. Whatever the fuck gets me in the club. If the door to stardom is a locked door and the only key is Travolta's cock, I will grab it and jam it in the hole. I'm in. Bring me on board, Scientology. By the way, Scientology, I don't know if you're interested in me and my hobo army who will do your bidding. Maybe does that change your mind? Does that sway you? I have a hobo army who listen to me in their sleep and are now conditioned. It's like the Manchurian bums. All right. By the way, if you're in Manchuria, don't raise your hand. You'll get beaten up. It's just like Sri Lanka. Is Manchuria even a place? I have no fucking idea. That's China, right? Is Manchuria in China? Ow, folks, I'm moving my leg. That hurts. So, jury duty. I look, I did this show already. All right. It's so that's another reason I'm in my head today is because I did this show about jury duty because I've been called now 3 times for jury duty. The first time I was called was in 2007 when I actually had a job that would have paid for me to have jury duty. I was writing on that Funniest Pets and People show. And this is going to sound ridiculous, but I was kind of flying high at the time because I had just come off a few jobs in a row and I was working and making really good money and feeling like a grown-up, feeling like an actual adult, feeling like someone who was accomplishing something in his life. And so when I was called for jury duty, I was happy because it felt like, oh, they know that I'm a grown-up now and that I can be on a jury. It was such a weird... almost like a validation of being a grown-up. It seems silly and funny to say that now, especially. But at the time, I was like, oh, this is cool. So you had to call every day. The only thing I will say is I did not want to get called for jury duty. I wanted to be acknowledged that I could be on a jury, but I didn't want to have to go in because, A, I would miss days at work, which would really fuck things up. Granted, I would get paid, but we'd fall behind and I wouldn't get paid nearly as much. And I did not want that to have that happen. And 2, I think it happened the week I was supposed to go to Hawaii. And if I would have been called on a jury, I would have had to cancel the trip and eat all the money, and I didn't want that to have that happen. But I didn't know at the time what you could do. It said you could postpone jury duty, but then it said they didn't know when it would be postponed. So I, in my head, foolishly thought if I postponed it, maybe they'd even call me the very next week and fuck up like Christmas. I had no idea what to do. So I went, you know what? I'm just going to gamble. Because all you had to do was call after 5 o'clock and see if you were going to be brought in. And also, everybody told me, dude, nobody ever gets called. Which seemed like a really ridiculous thing to say. Everybody, whenever you have jury duty, there's 2 different camps of people. The people who are like, dude, they're never going to call you. They never call anybody. And 2, the people who are like, I know exactly how you can get out of this. And I've heard from both of those camps. I'll get to that in a second. But people told me, they're like, dude, just chance it. You should just call. It shouldn't be a problem. I said, and they go, this is your first time ever called? I said, yeah. They go, you know what? They usually call people who've come in multiple times. They get them, people who respond multiple times, for some reason, they're good at juries. So they wind up getting on a list and they keep getting, everybody's got their fucking theory. That is not true. None of this is true, but everyone thinks it is. So I didn't care. So that week I just gambled. I called after 5 o'clock and I would have to call from the office every day. And I would call, and we made it a game where it was like me and a couple of the other writers would sit there and I'd call and they'd say, you do not have to report. Yay! Hilarious. Then I'd write a joke about a possum. But that week went through all the way through to the end of the week, and then Friday I called and it said this concludes. I never was called. I didn't have to go in. I was so happy, but also kind of bummed. I'm like, oh, well, I'm not good enough. But it made sense because, like people said, hey, this is your first time. You'll never get called. I said, great. So then I got a notice about 2 years ago, and was summoned to actually report, and that was covered in a show in year 2 called I Get a Sidebar, Folks. I think that's what we called it. And by the way, medical professionals, that show can be yours along with the rest of year 2 if you just want to take a look at my leg. If anyone out there just happens to have a home MRI machine and I can stop by and jam my fucking leg into it, then perfect. Let's do this. I'm excited. I want a homemade MRI. Maybe we just jury rig one of those up. We get I'm sure there's some sort of fucking Doc Brown out there who's got a flux capacitor attached to a car with a blow dryer on it. I jam my fucking leg in the trunk and all of a sudden we see if I got a torn ACL. Let's do it. And he had hobo hair. See the tie-in? Doc Brown had hobo hair. I need an army of hobo surgeons. All right, so I was called and I talked about it all that on that show. I had to report. It was like traffic or whatever the fuck, courthouse. Then I got transferred to another courthouse. Then I got put on a murder trial. And for some reason, it turned out I had done jokes about the case. And so I told the judge, and he's like, yeah, it's not a problem. Have a seat. I mean, like, ridiculously, they kept me. And then it kept boiling down to and I had to get, there was a sidebar, whatever the fuck. I was playing with pencils. Go listen to year 2. Go buy year 2. So it was a nightmare, and that was just 2 years ago. So then I get the notice again for jury duty now. And I was so pissed when it came, because now you know the envelope. And again, it's so funny how it changes in 5 years. You know, when I first got it, I thought it was a validation of me being an adult. And now I see it, and all you look at it as a burden, and you're like, fuck, how can I get out of this? I have to get out of this. So I open, and then what's funny is Karen has not been called in any of the time. You know, I've been called 3 times in 5 years. Karen hasn't been called once. Lily's never been called. She wants to be called. She said that she would love to go and be on a jury. I'm like, fuck. I wish I could put you in a fat suit and you can go as me. So this time around, I get the notice. And you get the notice a month ago. So you have 3 weeks before you're going to be called. And it says right on there you can postpone it. And in my head, I'm like, well, I could postpone it, but who knows then when it's going to come up? What if it comes up in January? When I'm really doing stuff? You know, because in the future, I'll really be doing stuff. Sure, I will. You know how that works. Eventually, I have to lead my hobo army into battle. So I cannot possibly put this up, because what if I have to cancel the whole fucking, the Battle of Bumsai? That made me laugh, the Battle of Bumsai. How could I possibly be expected to postpone the surge at Hobojima? So, God damn it. You know, if hobos do listen to this, I wonder what side they fall on. Are they like, God damn, this guy loves us, or this guy hates us? I can't decide. But that's also because homos have no idea what's going on at all, period. They can't. How can I expect hobos to detect sarcasm? How can I expect hobos to discern exactly what I'm saying? For fuck's sake, their eardrums are covered in a thin patina of filth from being outside all day. Which is another reason we need to get them listening to this show. Because if the hobos wear earbuds, their eardrums will not be covered with filth. Certainly verbal filth, but not the thin patina of natural filth that covers their ears now, because the earbuds will be clogging their hobo earways. It's a good name for a band, Hobo Earways. Actually, that band already exists. It's called Mumford & Sons. All right, so... Look, I like Mumford & Sons, and I like some of their songs, but eventually it just sounds like a bunch of hobos under a bridge, doesn't it? Really, when it's got those... look, any band that's using instruments from the 20s that nobody plays anymore, hey, look, we found a zither. Oh, good. Well, throw it in the mix, Mumford & Sons. God damn it. America's been waiting for the zither to come back. Jesus Christ, Mumford & Sons. Enough. Stop playing songs that the Waltons could have a square dance to. Seriously. And again, I like some of your songs. They're great. But then you listen to the rest of the album and you're like, who found a fucking calendar from 1911? Why? Why, fellas? When you're done with your zither solo, why don't you line up all 45 guys in the band and just march to your deaths inside of a theremin? Go ahead and do it. Just a fucking odd-sounding, high-pitched, spooky noise death. That's what we got to get out of you guys. That should be the final cut on your final album. All of you dying, death by theremin, courtesy of the Mumford & Sons. Just wander into it one at a time like flies into a bug zapper, for fuck's sake. And I like them. I really do. How sad is that? Why am I coming down on these dudes? There's so many other bands you could crucify. You know, like the other 37 bands who are all trying to be Mumford & Sons. Why don't I give them a hard time? Everybody else out there is trying to be Grizzly Bear. Let's go ahead and crucify them. If some band comes along and does a thing that hasn't been done in a while, and then 100 other fucking bands come, they're influenced by it, which is fine. Everybody lives their influences. Look at me, for fuck's sake. I'm here because of Adam Curry. All right. That's the godfather of podcasting, from what I understand. If it's not for him, I'm not here, sitting in a room with my friend Lily. Lily's met Adam Curry, and they got along very well, very famously. Did he sign your tits?
God, no.
No, God, no? You're horrified by that?
Yeah, because he didn't invent podcasting. He took credit for something that we'd been doing for 2 years.
Can I have this debate opened up now? You don't even want me here. Let's have a debate. What was that face?
Because I don't understand you sometimes.
You always understand me. That's why you made a sign that said, "This is the show, idiot."
Because I thought that was funny.
Oh,
I
it's...
reminded you when you were doing it.
Sure, yeah. It's grand.
Keep moving.
Exactly. Keep moving. Shut up. Finish and get out of your house. I understand. Finish and get out of your house. That's the message you bring.
No, get out of your head.
Yeah. Mike, just keep moving forward so you can finish this and get the fuck out of my house. All right. I understand. Ow. My knee. I'm you now with the bad knee. Don't make a sad face. She's making a sad face. Now how am I supposed to go forward now with you making a sad face? That's terrible. There's no way the show can even... You know what, folks? You guys can get me at Mike@MikeSchmidtComedy.com. I can't sit in here with a sad Lily. She already yelled at me once before, and I threw my earbuds. It was very, very... it was not good. It was not fun. So there's been this weird tension. Well, I just flipped them. Well, I can't throw them at your house. If it was my house, I could fucking... No, I flipped... I pulled them out. I didn't put them down. I flipped them like that, and I let them drop with a little noise. You didn't see it? God, all right.
I was reading the thing.
There, I just did it again.
You did that?
Yeah.
You're a jerk.
See? I did that on purpose to get your attention, to show you that I was upset.
I was doing my job.
Your job, please. I'm going to hold up a sign for you. Edit the show, idiot. All right. I haven't slept. I haven't slept. So I'm a pill today, folks. I won't lie. I'm a pill. I'm sitting here and just like, I don't, I told you about it earlier. Nobody fucking cares. Yes, I'm back to that. Before it was like, hey, you care. Everybody cares. Not this week, man. Not this week. So this is my third time being called for jury duty. And I got the notice a month ago, and everybody started to tell me what I could do to get out of it. And I'm not very good at that. Here's what I always think. I think I'm just fucking stupid enough that they're going to let me go anyway. And let me rephrase that. I'm smart enough that they're going to let me go anyway, because they don't want smart people on juries. They want stupid people that they can that are malleable, that they can convince and trick and all those sorts of things. They don't want a smart guy who can see through bullshit. So I always think that if I'm glib when they talk to me, because I was funny at the murder trial one, and in this one I figured, well, I'll be glib and I'll give answers that show that I'm smart, because there's enough timid people there that they'll just go ahead and keep them, right? That seems to be the case. But I also assumed that I would not get called, because I was called the last time. In my head, I went, well, this is just a formality. They're not going to call me. So over the 3 weeks, I actually forgot to register, and that's real bad news. Like, then that's perjury or whatever the fuck, or contempt. I don't know. So the day after my deadline to register, I called and registered, and it wasn't a problem, which really kind of threw me. I'm like, well, then is this a lie? Did you lie? Is the cake a lie? The cake is a lie, folks. So I registered, and time passed, and it was getting closer, and I knew I was going to Portland. I knew I was going to Milwaukee, and then I was in the mix for that writing job, which by the way, I did not get. I don't know if I mentioned on here that I did not get it. I think I would have mentioned that if I had gotten it, so you pretty much all assumed I didn't get it. But in my initial meeting and interview with them, I told them, look, I'm going to Portland, I'm going to Milwaukee, I've got jury duty 3 weeks in a row. And they said, wow, we will probably need you in studio because I was going to have to cancel Portland. And they said, and you can postpone jury duty. Just make that phone call right now. I said, well, unless I'm hired, I don't want to postpone it. You know, and if it looks good and it looks close, they go, well, you should postpone it anyway. I mean, it's not a problem. It's just a simple phone call. And at that point, I'm like, fuck you. I mean, if you're going to hire me, great, but don't tell me to fucking postpone something and then I got to pay for it down the line, and then you're not going to hire me, which they didn't anyway. So I'm glad I didn't postpone it. But it looked like I was going to have to. I was all ready to do so. And then when they were dicking me around, I didn't call and postpone it, so I figured I'd just ride it out. And then last week, I called Monday. I called Sunday. They didn't need me. I called Monday. They didn't need me. I called Tuesday. They didn't need me. I came here to do the show, and that just left 2 more phone calls. I'm like, all right, well, this is perfect. 3 are out of the way. 2 are left. And I think I actually did it. I told you on the air last week that I got called for jury duty, right? Yeah, because that happened sitting here in Lily's house. And then I immediately set down my earbuds furiously, and she said, oh, I can't wait till you're done talking and get out of my house. Just like she does every week at this time. So I was pissed to be called. It's nothing about civic duty. It's nothing about being bored. It's none of that. I don't mind going. All right. Like I said, I kind of enjoyed the process the last time till it looked like I actually might get on a fucking jury. If I just didn't have the upside down schedule that I have, it wouldn't bother me. If I had a job that paid and all that stuff, and even now, I don't have a job that pays. So if I was unemployed, fuck it. I'd go to jury duty every day. I don't give a shit. Just bring me in there and let me fucking get to the end of the day and be excused or get picked. I don't care. The process to me is interesting. I won't say fascinating, because I think I've got it sussed. Like I said, you get in the room, they start asking questions, and they want stupid people to stick around and figure out the cases, and they let all the smart people go. So, although I thought that, and then I was down to the final 3 jurors the last time to get picked for a fucking murder trial, that would have been 3 weeks. even though I knew the facts of it. Well, go by year 2. So the problem is I had to be in the courtroom at 7:30 on Thursday morning. For me, that's complete death because usually I'm working at that bullshit security job, so I'm there 10 to 6. And I'm not going to be able to sleep, obviously, before 7:30. So I was up Wednesday doing the podcast. I had only had 4 hours of sleep, I think, last week, or 5 hours. I haven't been sleeping anyway, because I don't know if you're aware of this. I had a plague sent by Pharaoh to my bedroom. That happened like a month ago. And it seems to be, I will update you on this, it seems to be everything's fine. My wife actually sleeps in the bedroom on the air mattress that our friend Lily loaned me, because she just wanted me out of her house. Here, fuck, take the air mattress and get out. Take it now. I was like, could I possibly? Yes, take it, go. So we inflated the air mattress, and it's fun. I was on it once or twice. I haven't slept on it yet, but I laid on it to see what it was like. And it's actually kind of a godsend because, Karen, I can sleep anywhere. All right, I can sleep in planes, on buses, in cars, apparently anything with wheels. I can sleep on a skateboard. I can sleep in a roller skate. But my point is I can almost sleep leaning, standing up. I mean, I, for some reason, have been very blessed with the ability to fucking sleep anywhere. Broom closet, I don't give a fuck. I actually like smaller places because they're very womb-like. I've actually gone out and slept in my car on purpose because I enjoy the small coffin-like area of sleeping in my car. I know it sounds dumb, but I do. So I haven't been sleeping very well. I sleep in the living room in a chair. Sitting up, with my feet up, and which is fine. I love it because it's real. And it's a womb-like chair where I can kind of jam my arms at my sides, and I don't get to move. But at the same time, I can only sleep like 4 and 5 hours at a time. Because you're sitting up and there's people outside gardening or getting their mail or just fucking talking, or my neighbor is chanting his Buddhist chants, and you hear that and you wake up, and even though I work graveyard and I'm up all night and I sleep during the day, if you wake up during the day, and I've told you this before, if you wake up during the day, you're up. Once you see the sun, your body goes, oh, it's time to get up, regardless of how long you've slept. So it's a challenge. And especially being in the living room then, where I try to make it as dark as possible, but then there's light coming in through the blinds, whatever the fuck. So, why are we talking about sleep, my sleep? Getting up at 7:30, yeah, that's not even going to happen. So I had only had like 3 or 4 hours of sleep, came here, did the podcast, went home, and then that night I'm supposed to do all my Facebook stuff and email blast to let you guys know that the show's available. So, and then I said to myself, get a couple hours of sleep, try to do what you can. So I blazed through the email stuff, I blazed through the Facebook stuff, and I actually went and sat in the chair. Because I knew the next day could be a long day and I'd only had 4 hours of sleep. I sat in the chair and I wound up sleeping for 2 hours, which was good. Got up, grabbed a shower, and then I had to go to the courthouse at 7:30 in downtown Los Angeles. When you're up all night, nobody's up. The streets are clear. There's nobody out. Well, in the daytime, I know what traffic is. I've been in traffic many times, and I will be in traffic again. But when you get back into traffic, you realize just how fucking inconvenient it is and how terrible it is. And you're sitting there, and it's so funny. I start to rue being awake. Like, I want to live like a normal person. I want to be awake during the day. I don't want to be up all night. But at the same time, then you're in traffic. You go, there's something to be said for being up all night. And being asleep, because that is one of the things that I really love. I love sleeping during the day so I can hear people living their lives outside, because it makes me feel like a spy, first of all, and it also makes me feel privileged. Like, haha, you have to go do all that stupid shit, and I can hear you driving in your cars, and I can hear you outside talking and bitching, and I am under a blanket, and I am sleeping, and it is so gorgeous. It's like being an infant. It's like being a child all the time. Like, if you laid in a crib, and you're like, these people are doing their stupid shit, and they got to come and get, change my diaper. I'm there. I'm like, come change my diaper, America. I can hear you outside. So So I enjoy that. But then when forced to confront real life and have to be up during the day, it's like being a guy from the 1800s who sees horses and carriages, and then he steps into a time machine, and then all of a sudden he's surrounded by fucking cars and noise. It changes the fucking dynamic of your entire life. Even though I've been in it before, I've been out of it for so long, then I get thrust into it, I'm like, oh yeah, fuck, this is why I like being up at night and sleeping during the fucking day. It's like one of my favorite jokes David Letterman ever had. He had a top 10 list, and the top 10 list was top 10 things that Abe Lincoln would say if he was alive today. And on the list was the phrase, Eog, Iron Bird, which I fucking loved because Abe Lincoln would see this plane in the sky and not know what the fuck it was. I loved it. I fucking loved it. So that's what I feel like when I'm thrust into traffic. All of a sudden, I've got to drive and compete and hustle with real people. And then you start to notice shit where there's all the carpool lane is empty and you're in a line of like 70 cars because everybody's in their car alone. And it just backs everything the fuck up. You're just like, why don't you, the carpool? These are things I could think of at night and bring to you people in the daytime. You don't want me up in the daytime because that's I have no business being among the world of the daywalkers. All right, I should be under the cover of night. It's like if you ask Dracula to buy a farm. Fuck that. He doesn't want to do that. He flies around and he bites people at night. He doesn't want to be up harvesting corn and feeding pigs and being up under the fucking sun. He'll die. He'll burn up. Put him in his coffin. Put me in my fucking coffin during the day. All right, that's where I belong. I should be sleeping and out of your hair. So I get up. I'm driving, and I didn't even get up. I slept 2 hours, got up, fucking showered, dressed. I hit the road, and it wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be because I wound up going surface streets. I didn't get on the freeway, and I made it down to the courthouse. I got there 7:20. Went inside. There was no real line outside. 7:30. You walk into this room, and when you go into the courthouse, I apologize. You check in, and they tell you to be there at 7:30. People keep getting there late, but they don't even start anything until 8 o'clock. And then it's just this bullshit of reading, and they put on a floor show. The entire courthouse is like it's like flying Southwest because these women are so bored with their fucking jobs that they decide they've got to be funny. And they were very nice. I should tell you this. They're all, and I'll also tell you this. They made me say this because they found out that I was going to do a show about my experience. So they're like, make sure you say good things about us. So they're all such wonderful people. They were so nice, and they were good to me, and they did me a favor, which I will tell you about later. If they hadn't done me this favor, then I would obviously just tell you that I didn't have much interaction with them. However, this time, I can tell you they're the greatest employees I've ever met in my life. Certainly employed by the government. But they come out and they do a floor show, and they go through your form and make sure you checked everything properly. And the room is full, and you have to follow along with the form. And there's always people who haven't filled it out properly. Always people who have questions about how to fill it out. Always people who don't want to sit there and listen. They want to ask right away. Well, what about Section 3? I'm getting to Section 3, sir. Everybody needs to just shut the fuck up and listen, but they don't. Everybody wants to jump in because everyone is pissed that they're there. So they want to hurry the process along, but they need to realize once you walk in that room, time stands still. You need to just sit the fuck down, and you'll get out when you get out. Everybody thinks that they can hustle through it and they can go ahead and make it happen faster. You can't. You cannot. You go to the courthouse and you sit. And that's why you need to bring, because they have on the side, they have computers. And you can go on the internet if you want, and those immediately get clogged up with people who are surfing the net or, I don't know, Googling ways to get out of jury duty, even though they're already in the fucking room. That's not going to happen. But we sit there, they come out, they do the floor show, and they tell you eventually they'll call your name and you'll be put into a lot. And if you don't get called, you could sit in that room until 5 o'clock. And if you're there until 5 o'clock, guess what? Your jury service is over. You get to say, thank you, and you leave. You don't have to come back the next day. You tried and you failed to get on a jury, and that was that. But the majority of people, they say, are going to get called. So I'm sitting there, and I throw on my fucking shuffle, and I'm listening to music, because I know they're not going to start announcing names for 2 hours. And the thing is, I should not have my earbuds on. I should be paying attention. But I know what they're talking about. I've filled my form out properly. Everything's fine. I know they're going to call us up. And once everybody starts to walk to the front of the room, I know I can take my earbuds off and go, are we dropping our forms off now? It's cheating, quite frankly. Because, the thing is, I think it's just me. Like, I don't... On the plane, too, when I want to put on my earbuds and just leave me the fuck alone, I want to listen to music. I just don't like being told what to do. I think that's the bottom line of the entire thing. Don't tell me how to put on a fucking margarine cup and breathe in a plane crash. Don't tell me how to fill out a form. I know how to do these things. Because generally, society is built for 6-year-olds. Have you noticed this? I mean, I know that sounds ridiculous to say, but everywhere you go, people speak to you as if you're a child. They speak to you in such a way that they don't think you know what's up. And the problem is, you're surrounded by people who don't know what's up. You're surrounded by people who are happy to be spoken to on a 6th grade level. It reminds me of the conventions, all right? And this is going to be a weird fucking tangent, but follow me. If you watch the Republican convention, you watch the Democratic National Convention, when you watch the speeches being made, the ones that stand out, that seem to be good speeches, were the ones that, maybe they didn't even thrill you politically, but they were talking to you like you were an adult, and you were happy with it, okay? Everybody else with that slow inflection and then driving home their pre-written punchlines and punching the air with their fists. You fucking hate it. I hated it. I don't like being talked down to. I don't like being condescended to. Like, I don't know what the fuck is going on. It drives me crazy. I think much faster than those people are talking, so my mind wanders. And so I just want to hear music and fucking... It's not a good place to be when you're OCD or ADD or anything. Or when you're just ME, that's it. That's a bad thing. If you're OCD, ADD, or fucking ME, you don't want to be anywhere where someone's telling you what the fuck to do. Because inevitably, I'm way ahead of them. I'm so fucking far ahead of them. And I'm not smart. I'm not some genius. I think we already figured it out. I'm not a genius. I'm not a retard. I'm directly in the fucking middle, which is sad. But unfortunately, everybody else must be beneath me or below me, or they just think faster, or they don't mind. Maybe they don't mind being sheep. Maybe they don't mind being cattle. Maybe they don't mind being spoken to in such a way where they have to take their pen, black ink, please, and make that circle. And make sure you stay inside the circle. What the fuck? Stay inside the circle? I'm 45 years old. Drives me crazy. So I got my earbuds on. I just don't like being a part of anything, folks. I think that's what it is. I don't want to be a part of anything that the general public is involved in. I want to be just fucking divorced from the whole thing. This is why I'm up at night. Reminds me of Grosse Pointe Blank when fucking Dan Aykroyd's trying to get Martin Blank, John Cusack, to join his like assassins union. And he goes, no, fuck that. Lone gunman, lone. That's the point. Look at the way I dress. Exactly. I don't need to be in a festive group. Ever. So I sit in the room, I got my earbuds on, and they're doing, and I remember even from 2 years ago, I remember the procedure, and they're doing jokes, they're being funny, they're making little jokes, and they'll ask a question, they'll go, so let me ask you this, folks, if a reporter brings you outside and he asks you about the case that you're on, can you talk to him? And it's like, no. Well, what if he says that the judge said it's okay? Like, they ask you legitimate questions like that. I'm not even kidding, because they tell you not to speak to the media. And then they say, well, what if a reporter comes up to you and he says, the judge said it's okay that we talk? Is it still okay that you talk to them? And then a couple of people will go, no. And they go, exactly, no, you don't ever speak to the media. And also, this is what drives me crazy about court. Again, and it drives me crazy about anything. Me, they start telling us what we can wear. They break down the fact that you can't wear shirts with messages on them or shirts with pictures that they might deem offensive or influential. They will make you turn your shirt inside out. The judge may make you change clothes, or he may just send you home, and then you'll have to come back the next day dressed properly for jury duty. They're like, so if you've got a shirt on right now, turn it inside out so the judge doesn't do that. And I'm like, what? Are you fucking kidding? The judge is going to be offended by a shirt that I wear? And first of all, if you're wearing a shirt that may be borderline offensive to your jury duty, fuck you. You deserve to have the judge bang his gavel and point at your ass. Leave your Ed Hardy in the fucking car. Buy a plain shirt and come in and just kill time. You're not there to make a statement. You're there to fucking get in and out. Some woman, they tell us a story, and I don't know if these stories are apocryphal or if they're true, but they said literally the previous week, a woman had showed up with a shirt that said guilty as charged. Thinking that she would be sent home, thinking that the judge would say, I can't seat you. No, they made her turn it inside out or come back the next day, and she turned it inside out. And get this, she had to turn it inside out in the courtroom in front of everybody. Had to take it off, show her bra. She didn't really have to. That would have been perfect. That would have just added to the level of humiliation. All right, take that shirt off. What? Take it off now. Now, right now. Oh, yeah, bang the gavel. So, and honestly, the way women are being treated in this country now, that wouldn't surprise me at all. If a fucking judge made a woman get up and take her shirt off in front of everyone just because they had to shame her in the courtroom. So I'm sitting there waiting. And another thing too is there's a snack bar like right outside the door where they try to trick you because you're bored. You get a bored eat, and they have popcorn. It's a general snack bar. It's like a little fucking tiny 7-Eleven, and it's priced just like a 7-Eleven because it's you're a captive. So it's a $3 muffin. You know what I mean? A $5 tiny box of Frosted Flakes. Which, by the way, that made me laugh. They had little boxes of cereal, and I'm like, who the fuck is... Because, all right, I don't know if you've ever seen those little boxes of cereal. It has instructions, I don't know if it does anymore. When I was a kid, it did, to turn that box into a bowl. Like, and you were supposed to, like, pop the cardboard and then tear the bag open and then pour milk in the box? Like you're fucking Marshall Brodeen doing magic fucking tricks? Oh, I pour the milk into the cone and it's gone. No, I pour milk into this tiny cereal box. Yeah, it's gone. It's on my fucking lap. I'm covered in milk. That's a fucking box. It's not a bowl. So now they've gone ahead and served them in a bowl. But I didn't see any of those around. All right. Folks, it's very important that you know what I saw around. Did not see one of those around. But then I walked in to grab something, and then it said because I don't bring cash with me anywhere ever anymore. And it said it was a $5 minimum credit purchase, which in that room was not going to be difficult. I mean, I could have bought 2 muffins, but I don't want 2 muffins. I didn't want anything, quite frankly. I was just killing fucking time walking around looking. And then I was like, maybe I'll get a candy bar. And they're like, candy bars are $1.85. You'll have to buy 4 of them. And you know what? I'm fat. I'm going to buy 4 of them probably anyway. But now that you've told me I need to buy 4 of them, fuck you. I'm buying nothing. I walk out. Go back and sit down. Waiting. Flipping through my phone. You know, and thank God for the smartphone too. Because I can't even imagine what people did in the olden days when they had to go sit there. Well, actually I can, because I had to do that sort of thing. And I would bring a stack of Mac. This was, you know what it was like? It reminded me of, because it was all quiet and you couldn't move and you couldn't go anywhere. It was like internal suspension when I was a kid. I was in high school and I would have a thing called internal suspension where you have to spend the whole day in one room and you couldn't talk. That's basically what this is. Except you can go buy a $9 muffin if you want. So I'm sitting in there waiting. They go, okay, we're going to start calling names at 9 a.m. They actually started right away calling names for juries. And they called some people, and then it turned out those people left, and we're sitting there, and I got my earbuds on. And the thing is, whenever they started to talk, I would pop one earbud out to hear who they were calling. So right around 10:15, they started, because the last time I did this, for the murder trial, I was in this particular room waiting to be called, and I had to wait all the way until near lunchtime, and then they transferred me to another building, and that's when I went from civil or whatever cases over to the criminal courts building, and that's when I wound up on the jury there, or in the jury pool. Well, this time I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden, like, it was like 10:15, they called my name. And you want your name to be called, okay? Because you want to go upstairs and get out of jury duty as quickly as possible so you can be excused. And I'm also armed with this fact, because I'm going to go upstairs. And again, the ladies are very nice in that one room where you're headquartered for the entire day. I want to go upstairs, get dismissed by the judge, come down, and they say that you have to stay until 5 o'clock and see if you get picked for another jury, which seems like double jeopardy. And this is a legal courthouse. You should know what double jeopardy is, motherfuckers. I shouldn't have to be excused once and then have to go right back into the goddamn jury pool. That's double jeopardy. But instead, I was going to get excused and come downstairs and go, listen to me. I need to appeal to your better sense of wealth and humanity. I haven't been to bed yet. So I would love to be dismissed now. I work graveyard job and because in the beginning they ask you if you have hardships. And they'll say, look, do you have a hardship that means that you can't serve? And we should tell you right now, nothing to do with your job not paying you is a hardship. We mean real hardships, like you have a disabled child or you are ill yourself. So I never go up and ask them, oh, look, I work a graveyard job, because it doesn't work. And it's also a pussy way out. I'm there. I don't mind doing my thing, but it's up to me then, by my guile and wits, to convince the judge that I'm a fuck up and to get me out of the room. And how hard is that going to be? Actually, you know what? The bullshit. I got to convince them I'm smart. That's the thing, is they want fuck ups. They want the fuck ups to sit up there. So I get called at 10:15. We have to go upstairs to the 6th floor. We wait outside, and the bailiff woman comes out, and there's a pool of us. I don't even know how many there were. I said, all right, we're going to call you in. Right now we've got your names. She comes out and takes roll. And she says, we have your names. We're going to figure out an order, and then we'll get you in the room. So she walks inside. And I'm out in the hallway with all the other people. And it's that thing where you're all looking at one another like, Jesus Christ, can we just get this over with? I've got my earbuds on. I'm waiting. They finally call us in the room about 10 minutes later. And they go, okay, you're going to get seated by the way I call your name. So they call a person's name, and that person has to sit in seat 1, seat 2, seat 3. So as they progress, you look, seat 1 through seat 13 are in the jury box. So that's your initial jury. Then they have 14 through 30 outside of the jury box. And as they eliminate people in the jury box, everyone moves up a seat. So if they eliminate number 3, then that means number 14 becomes number 13 and everybody moves. It's like that sort of thing. But they don't. When I did the criminal trial, I should say, they physically did that. It was almost like a fantasy draft of jurors, because we were in the box, and then as they would eliminate people, they would have someone go and take that person's seat. So the jury box was always full. So we sit down. There's 13 in the jury box. They call me. I'm number 18 of 30. So there's 13 total in the jury box, and then it bleeds out where there's another 17 of us in seats 14 through 30. There's 2 lawyers sitting at the tables, and the judge comes in. We have to stand up. He sits down. This was Judge Rafael Ongeko. Ongeko. I apologize. Ongkeko. The Honorable Judge Rafael Ongeko presiding. He comes in. He's very nice. And he was very intelligent and spoke very well to all of us. He wasn't crusty or mean. He wasn't old. He was probably about 50, would be my guess, a little older than me. And he was very. I thought he had a very elegant way of speaking, and he treated us with incredible respect. Because you do tend to feel like cattle when you're in that place, and you're spoken down to quite a bit. He spoke up to us, like he talked to us like we would understand what adults would say. I was amazed by it. So, and I can't have my earbuds on in the courtroom, so I have to pay attention to what Judge Ongeko says. And I have to hear anyway because he's giving us the lowdown. So the way it works is there's a huge, it's a chalkboard, but it's not, how do I put this? It's not a chalkboard anymore. It has paper over it and a push pin corkboard. But it's like if you had a corkboard that you would flip, a blackboard freestanding. And on it has the jury instructions. And they're going to go to each individual juror. You have to tell them your name, your occupation, if you've ever been in a jury before, where you live, how many kids, your spouse, all this information about yourself. And everyone gets a turn. All 30 of us have to do it, starting with number 1 and moving on. So he explains a little bit about the case to us. He tells us this is a civil case, and it is a foreclosure case. And it turns out that there is a company called 844 LBLA LLC who decided to name themselves in the most confusing fashion they possibly could. 844 LBLA LLC has, they own a restaurant, apparently, and there is a guy named Jin Ho Lee. That is who they're going against. Jin Ho Lee is sitting with his lawyer at the table. And the plaintiff is 844 LBLA LLC. And they are trying to get Jin Ho Lee evicted from the premises. They've foreclosed on his restaurant. He refuses to leave. That's vague. That's what we have up top to start with. And what we have to decide is whether or not they are within their rights to foreclose upon him, or within their rights to evict him. And we have to hear witnesses. He tells us there's going to be 6 witnesses. He tells us that the case is probably going to take 3 days. And none of this really concerns me because I know I won't be there for it. I'm far too smart to get sucked into this foreclosure vortex. So I'm sitting there listening and being very polite. We're all listening. And the judge could not have been nicer, could not have been more adult. He did not dismiss it. He acted like he was very excited about this case, and we should be too. And he starts to brief us and tell us all of these things, and he says he has a bunch of jury instructions, and we have to take an oath where we have to stand up, and we are told a bunch of stuff. Then we have to sit down, and then we're going to go one by one and start saying who we are. But first, it's time for lunch. After getting upstairs, waiting in the hallway, having them call roll twice, finally seating us from 1 to 30, having the judge pop in and give us all of this direction, it's now like 11:45, and he says, you know what, lunch is at 12, but there's no business starting now because we'll never get done. 15 minutes is going to help us. I'm going to dismiss you a little early. Go enjoy your lunch. We'll all meet back here at 1:30. Which is very nice and considerate of him, but fuck that. Let's finish this and send me the fuck home. I don't need lunch. I don't need to eat lunch in a fucking high rise, all right? I don't know what the fuck is upstairs, because I was here last time, and I did have lunch, and they had a cafeteria where they served, like, meatloaf and hot dishes, like that sort of thing. But that was in the other criminal courts building. I don't know what the fuck they got here. They got 80 snack bars on every goddamn floor, but instead they tell us the cafeteria's up on 9. And there's nothing you can do. So I'm like, oh, fuck, I'll go kill time in the cafeteria. I go upstairs. And I should tell you, the cafeteria actually had decent food. Like they had a ton of selections of cold sandwiches. And then they had a cold sandwich bar, like Subway, where they would make food for you, and they would make hamburgers to order, and then they had an entree. It was a real legitimate place where they actually cared about the food, and the friendliest employees I've ever run into in a cafeteria setting. Like they, over the course of the time that I was there, they recognized me and remembered what I ate. This is fucking ridiculous. Because the first day I show up, I go upstairs. They actually had a sushi guy making sushi in the cafeteria. And part of me is like, look, I love sushi, and I even like junk sushi. Like, this is because you can get sushi at fucking 7-Eleven if you want, which is awful. Don't ever do that. It's just nothing but salt. But if you go to Ralph's or some grocery store, they have sushi. You can buy that, and it's cheaper than regular sushi because it's, not as good, obviously, as a sushi snob will tell you. But it's sushi, and it's not buying a fucking hamburger, so I'm in. Fine. So they had a thing called an ichi roll, which is just a California roll with shrimp and avocado on top. Done. Got it. Buy it. $8. So I grabbed that. The guy was real nice. He goes, you can take that over and get, we have a lobster special today. We can make that a lobster roll. We actually have hot lobster topping over by the hot bar. We can put it on top of your ichi roll and make it a lobster roll. I said, nah, that's cool. I appreciate it. I'm not a sauce guy. So I grab the ichi roll. I go, I buy it. I sit down. I throw on my fucking earbuds and I start tweeting about how much I hate court. And I go on Facebook and I'm killing time. And, the cafeteria is just filling up with jurors and lawyers and everybody. And they're, jurors are terrible, all right, but lawyers are worse. I mean, because the lawyers will sit right at a table and talk about cases loudly, and you're like, dude, go do that in the courtroom. We're at lunch now. I understand it's all shop talk and bullshit, but I'm trying to eat my cheap sushi right now. I don't want to hear you talking about torts. If I wanted to hear about torts, I would have ordered a tort. I'm just killing time because I just want to get the fuck out of there. So finally 1:30 comes. Go back to the room. They don't let us in right away. They're settling up some business. We get in at like 1:45. And we sit down, and it's time now to tell you all about ourselves. So thankfully, we don't have to stand up because it's not kindergarten. But everyone has to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and start telling you who they are and what they do and where they're married and who they belong to and what they believe in and everything else. And everybody told me, they said things like, because people were telling me advice on how to get out of jury duty. And of course, they're the people who say you should be overtly racist. Which that's never going to work. You do realize that, right? I mean, you can't just stand up and be an overt racist dick because they will see right through it. I have to imagine they would see through it. If it would work, well then, how would you feel about yourself saying all that shit and then leaving? I don't. That's not for me. I can figure out a different way to get out of there. All right. I prefer to say all my horrible racist stuff in private. So I can't bring that to the inside of a courtroom. Not to mention the fact that 844-LBLA LLC is a Korean company, and they're suing Jin-Ho Lee, who may be a Korean dude, and his wife, Sin-Jin Lee. I don't know what the fuck she is, but she's also Korean. It's Korean on Korean crime. I don't want to stand up and be a racist in the middle of that. So, and Judge Ong Keko is also of the Asian persuasion, as apparently he's in a tag team in the WWF. The Asian persuasion, it was Judge Raphael Ong Keko and Mr. Fuji. The worst part of this trial is when Judge Raphael Ong Keko threw salt in the lawyer's eyes. Oh, sneaky. All right. So, and then everybody told me to say jury nullification. There were like 3 different people who told me, just say jury nullification. They don't even let you in the room if you mention jury nullification. I don't even know what that is. All right. But then I Googled it. And it said that jury nullification is something that you can use to get out of jury duty if you're in a criminal case. It said civil cases and jury nullification. I started to read up on it and said a lot of people think that it applies, but it doesn't. And again, it's Google and it's the internet. Who the fuck knows? I was getting advice, but then again, I was getting advice over Twitter. So, I mean, I don't know who to trust. All I know is, again, I'm going to prove that I'm smart and I'm going to get sent home. So, I should tell you this. Like I said, 844-LBLA LLC is a Korean company and Jin-Ho Lee is a Korean dude. So I start to do the math in my head. There's 30 of us. And I look around and there's probably 7 Asians in the pool. And in my head, I'm like, well, they're going to cut those guys loose right away. They don't want any Asians in the pool. Because then it's going to muck it up and what side are they going to choose? And it turns into that whole thing. And so they want to get rid of them right away. So then as we start running down the line and people start telling about what they do for a living, a couple of people are lawyers. And in my head, I go, well, they're gone. They're not going to have a lawyer on a jury trial. That's absolutely not going to happen. So then as we keep going further down, it turns out some people are property managers and have owned buildings and have had to evict people before and have had to foreclose on people before. And I go, well, they're going, not going to be here. You can't have them. So now I'm up to, there's 4 lawyers, 4 people who owned buildings or had foreclosure or eviction experience, and like 6 Asians. So that's 14 people out of 30. That leaves 16 for a jury of 12, which means there's 4 spots in play to get kicked out. I got to be one of those wild card folks. I got to be a wild card who gets kicked out. And all I'm doing is I'm just waiting them for to get to me so I can prove I'm smart, and I will be one of the wild cards. Because, again, they want dumb people. And unfortunately, they went through. There was a woman who barely knew any English. Okay? And they talked to her, and she was very nice, sweet lady. And there were more than a few people who had problems with the English language. So they go through all of us. They get to me. I tell them my name's Mike Schmidt. I'm an entertainer. I live in the Valley. My wife, blah, blah, blah. We go through it all. They go through all 30. There's more lawyers behind me. Overall total, there turned out to be like 5 lawyers. 6 Asians, whatever. So we finished the jury as they run through. And he goes, okay, well, now we have all that. Let's take a recess. Let's take a break. And we'll all be back here in 15 minutes. So we get dismissed in the afternoon. So we have to go sit outside. And I'm sitting next to a woman who she starts talking to some other people, and they go, man, I hope they pick me. These people, there are people who really want to be picked to be on a jury. This woman goes, I wish they would pick me, but they never will because I'm a lawyer. And I said, well, why don't you just tell them you want to be here? She looks at me, she goes, what? I go, why don't you say, I really want to be on this jury? She goes, well, that's definitely a way to get that they won't pick you. And in my head, I'm like, why? Because they think you're nuts? Like, I mean, it's just, which makes sense. And then part of me is like, why the fuck didn't I say, oh my God, I wish I could stay? Because then I would have gotten fucking sent home. But then again, I stopped talking to her because she was a lawyer who really wanted to talk. And I was just like, I put on my earbuds and buried myself in music. So all the jurors are outside chatting. We have our recess, which takes 25 minutes rather than 15. We get brought back into the courtroom. It's like just after 3 o'clock. So he says, all right, he tells us more about the case, and he tells us these are the 2 lawyers. They're going to start asking questions to try to get us eliminated. There's a lawyer named Mr. Mubasser and a lawyer named Mr. Park. Mr. Park is the defendant's lawyer. Mr. Mubasser is the plaintiff's lawyer. He's prosecuting, trying to foreclose and evict on Mr. Park's client. And he tells us that now that we have all of this jury done, he's hoping that we can get actually through the jury seating today and actually start hearing the case. That's what Judge Onkeko would like. So he turns it over to the lawyers. And, we're at a pretty good pace. Everybody's answering. We're moving quickly. And then Mr. Mubasser stands up and time fucking stands still. Because he starts asking questions and he starts talking. And as he's talking, okay, and asking questions to people, and they're answering about property or about, evictions and things like that. As they're asking these questions, I start to realize Mr. Mubasser is not a very good public speaker, which I think would be kind of a death knell as a lawyer. But a lot of ums, a lot of uhs, a lot of forgetting where he was and having to consult a legal pad when he's just asking questions of the jury. And people are answering, and they're, and I should say this, everybody's giving thoughtful answers because he's asking them about evictions and things like that. And finally he says, hey, well, he goes one person at a time. I should tell you this. He asks each person the same questions. And finally, about the 5th juror, the judge is like, why don't you just ask a blanket question and people can raise their hands if they have an issue with that? And he's like, yes, Your Honor. So he asks a question if anybody's been involved in evictions. And I raised my hand. Everybody else raises their hand. And so then the judge says, all right, lawyer, number 17, Mr. Schmidt. He goes, you were involved in an eviction? I said, yeah. And I honestly thought this was my big chance. I thought this was what was going to get me out of the courtroom. All right. Because I said, yeah. I said, when I was a kid, my mom divorced my father, and we lived in a house owned by my paternal grandparents, and they evicted my mom and her 5 kids, and we had to live in the street. And he goes, ooh. He goes, well, I would hope that time heals all wounds and everything's fine now. And I said, well, yeah, they're all dead now, so of course.
Oh my God.
And it got a laugh in the courtroom. Not a big one, more of a weird, titter, what the fuck did that guy just say? But I went, yeah, they're all dead now, so yeah. And I'm being honest because that's how I feel about it. But I also thought that kind of blatant abruptness would lead them to go, we got to get this motherfucker out of here. But he was like, all right, fine, thank you. And then Mr. Mubasser starts asking more questions, and he's terrible, and the wheels of justice are just grinding to a halt as he asks these questions. And the people answering are much more intelligent and well-spoken than him even, and he's trying to take notes, and then he re-asks questions. He's just a fucking terrible lawyer. He's so bad. He's just a bad, let's put it this way, I don't know if he's a bad lawyer, but he's an awful public speaker, and he's a terrible interviewer. So he goes through and he asks the people the questions, he does all this different stuff, and then finally he sits down. And now it's time for Mr. Park. And in my head, I'm like, man, if this guy, Mubasser, is the best the plaintiff can do, this guy's going to chew him up and spit him the fuck out. Mr. Park is going to come in here and lay waste to these guys. This guy might own the restaurant at the end of this. For fuck getting evicted, we may actually give him back the restaurant. Whoever the fucking winds up on the jury may actually give him the restaurant. Because that lawyer was terrible. In fact, he was probably the second worst fucking lawyer I've ever had the privilege of dealing with. The worst lawyer I've ever had the privilege of dealing with? Oh my God, Mr. Park, who is handling Jin-Ho Lee's case. The worst lawyer ever. I mean, he stands up and he first of all, he's not speaking over a whisper. Okay. And he's wearing, both of these guys are wearing ill-fitting suits. They looked like children dressed up to play lawyer. They had each learned like 4 two-syllable words each and decided they could get into the law practice. I don't know where the fuck they graduated from. I would like to talk to their professors. I'd like to see the quality of briefings or theses or cases or whatever the fuck they wrote, where they clerked. I have no idea how they became lawyers. None. I sat in the room. I found them guilty of being terrible lawyers. That was what I just wanted to stick around just to say that. He starts asking these questions and they're all going nowhere. He does ask this. He's like, hey, has anyone here ever had a problem with a bank? And, I raised my hand. We all raised our hand. But then he didn't follow up on that. He just wanted a show of hands. And then he said, who here has had a problem with a small business? Ever had a problem dealing with small business? Well, I refer you to Mike Schmidt v. T-shirts in 2012. So I raised my hand. And he's like, you've had a problem with a small business? And I said, yeah. He said, well, what's the problem? I said, I've had a problem with all businesses. You know what I mean? You get bad customer service anywhere. Just because someone's a small business doesn't mean that they're going to be any better or any worse. But I have had indications of when I've gone to order T-shirts or things like that from a small business, and they've not done what they were supposed to do. And it's almost more frustrating because there is no upper chain of command to go to. You're dealing with the people who screwed up. And again, I thought that was perfect. It's going to get me out of there because it shows my clear bias toward mom and pop stores. Get me the fuck out of this building. So they ask their questions and then they sit down. And now it's time to start nullifying people in the jury. So like I said, there's 13 seated over there. There's 17 seated over by me. I'm in seat 18. And they go ahead and they eliminate immediately a woman who owned a building. So they cut her loose. Then they cut loose an Asian. Then they cut loose a lawyer. Then they cut loose another woman who owned a building. By the way, I should mention that 3 of those 4 people were all in the jury box. So that means 1 through 13, and then I'm in, there's 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Well, now 14, 15, and 16 are in the jury box, leaving 2 more for me. And I'm like, they better not eliminate anybody else in that fucking jury box, or I'm going to have to move up. And the thing is, they're not letting people fill the empty chairs, so I'm trying to do the math in my head. And I'm trying to stay ahead of it. So Mubasser then says he's fine with the jury as constituted. And all we need now is Mr. Park to say he's fine with the jury as constituted, and then we're done. So I'm sitting there waiting. And Mr. Park goes, no, I think I'm going to eliminate number 7. And this is the thing that drives me crazy. This happened to me the last time, too. On the murder trial, they skipped me like 8 times to eliminate people that were behind me. And then finally they eliminated me, which I didn't understand. Well, sure enough, they skipped some people and eliminated people in the jury box and then eliminated people that were sitting with me. But then Park goes back to the jury box to like the first couple of people and eliminates them. And they ask you all, can you serve on this jury if you have to? And you just say yes. because you try to do the hardship thing downstairs, and they tell you, unless you tell us hardship, whatever you tell the judge is not going to work. So they know if you're in that room, obviously, you were told that you don't have a hardship. So we're just sitting there waiting, and then Park eliminates somebody. So then Mubasser, he gets back into it, and he eliminates somebody. And then Park eliminates another person, and now I'm in the jury. And I'm sitting there waiting, and Mubasser passes, says he's fine with the way it's constituted. And Park's like, And he looks around, and then he sees he's fine with the way the jury is constituted. And I'm sitting there, and I know I'm in the numbers. I know I'm in one of the empty chairs. And I start to panic. There's no fucking way I'm staying here. There's no way. So behind me, you hear this audible gasp and sigh of relief from everybody. And because that woman, the chatty lawyer from the hallway, is back there. She goes, we're done. He's going to tell us to go right now. And the judge is like, all right, well, it looks like that we have our numbers. We have 13 people that we need on the jury. Because, again, I also was doing the math wrong. I thought they needed 12. They needed 13. So there's somebody sitting next to me who's also in. So I'm 2 in. I'm not just 1 in. I'm not the last guy. There's somebody else in with me, sitting next to me. And they start cutting loose people. And I go, whoa, hold on. And he goes, is that okay with everyone? And immediately hands go up. There's a kid and another woman, and then there's 2 people by me and me. And we all raise our hands. And he starts laughing. He goes, well, of course, now there's people who say they don't want to serve. He goes, we asked you to stay downstairs. And they're like, well, we did, but they told us to come up and talk to you. So he goes one by one. And the kid in the jury box is 20. And he wants to be a cop. He's not in the academy yet, but he's going to school for being a police officer. And he says that he can't be off these days. And the judge says, well, no, they'll understand. It's jury duty. It's actually a way for you to learn something about the cases. You can learn about jury duty. It will help you in your studies. He goes, yeah, but I do ride-alongs with the police, and if I don't do them, then I lose my spot, and I'm not able to do any more ride-alongs. He goes, well, I'm happy to send you a letter with you that tells you that you're involved in that. And he goes, all right, well, I just would rather not do that because I'm getting in good with them, and I want to go on the ride-alongs. They know me, and I'd hate to miss the time. He goes, well, I'm sorry about that. I mean, I'm telling you that it should be okay. I'll get you a letter that excuses you from the ride-alongs, and they'll be happy because you're actually getting some civics experience. Who's next? And there's a woman sitting there, and she had said when she was interviewed, she goes, well, I'm starting school next week. And he goes, what day are you starting school? She said, Wednesday. He said, okay. So now that she's on the jury, she's like, whoa, I said I'm starting school. He goes, yeah, you start on Wednesday. She goes, well, yeah, but I mean, I have to start getting ready Monday. I have to start getting ready to be in school. Like I have to start, and he goes, well, when do classes start? She says, Wednesday. He goes, okay, well, if classes start Wednesday, then we should be out of here and done by Wednesday, which is fine. So you'll probably be here on Monday and Tuesday. Should be good. And she sits there with a puss on her face. And then he comes to me and he goes, Mr. Schmidt? I go, yeah, this is going to sound ridiculous. I have not been to bed yet. I work a graveyard job. And he goes, well, you said you're an entertainer. I said, I am, but I also work a security job. I didn't think I should mention that because it's security. And what's funny is I should have said security. Like, I didn't even think about it. I should have said I work as security in an apartment building and I've evicted and foreclosed on people. Like, all of that shit spins through your head at the end. But it was more important to me to identify as an entertainer because if I say I'm a security guy, then why the fuck do I even live in this town? Why not just kill myself? So I said, yeah. I go, I work in a security job, a graveyard job, and I work from 10 to 6 at night. I haven't been to bed yet today. I had to work last night, and I came right here. And now here we are in the afternoon. I still haven't been to sleep. And if you put me on this jury, that means tonight I will have to go home. I will have to work and then come in tomorrow morning. And, I have the weekend off, but it's crazy. I mean, like, I will get no sleep over the next 5 days because it changes my entire schedule. He goes, I do sympathize, but he goes, does your employer pay? And I go, no, he doesn't. That's one of the reasons why I have to work. He said, well, right now I've got to say that it's not an issue. I do apologize, and I think you're tough. I think you'll get through it. And then he goes to the woman next to me, and she says, hi, I'm a single mom. And he goes, okay, well, they asked you downstairs if you had a hardship, and you didn't. She goes, yes, but I'm a single mom, and I'll have to pay for a sitter for 3 days, and I don't have a job that pays me any money. And he goes, well, I understand that, but, we should be fine. It's only a couple of days, and if you have a sitter, and basically he blew off everybody. And then there was one other woman, she goes, me too. She goes, I'm a single mom, and I have a job that I can't afford to miss. And he's like, well, I can't help you. I'm sorry. That's no longer a hardship. That's unfortunate that employers choose not to pay for jury duty. That's not the state's problem. He goes, so we're going to take this into chambers. We're going to take the other lawyers, and we'll go ahead and figure everything out. So he takes Park and Mubasser, and he goes into the chambers, and I'm sitting there, and I'm so mad. I'm rocking like back and forth in my chair, and I'm acting like an asshole. There's clearly no doubt. I'm so furious that this could possibly happen that I'm getting enraged just sitting there, that I'm even in the room. I shouldn't even be in the room. I should be gone because, he hasn't dismissed anybody yet. Okay, the other people are still behind us. So he hasn't cut everybody loose. We're waiting, and I'm furious, just sitting there, and in my head I'm like, he's got to let me go. He's got to let me go. The worst part, though, is the two people, the student who starts school on Wednesday and the guy who's the cop in the ride-along, they're in the jury box. So if he cuts them loose, he's going to have to bring two more people up from the jury box, and that's going to decrease the chances he's going to cut me loose. Why the fuck are you keeping me? I was kicked out of my house. I was evicted. I hate people who evict people. I hate banks. Get me the fuck out of here. So I'm sitting there. Mubasser and Park come in, and they sit down. And I should tell you, I am staring a fucking hole through both of them. There was a story I told once how I went to the Apple store, and the guy started to bust my balls about my computer, and I just fucking stared at him and breathed. That's what I'm doing in the courtroom. I'm not breathing heavily like, I'm not doing that because I'm like a fucking madman, but I'm just sitting in my chair and I'm mean mugging the shit out of both lawyers, just waiting for them to send me home. Send me home. You don't want me here. I'm trying to send that message. You do not want me here. So the lawyers come out, they sit down, and the judge sits down and he goes, all right. He goes, I'm going to excuse you. He excuses the kid who's a ride-along cop guy. He says, but you're not excused from jury duty. You have to come back. So you will go downstairs and reschedule. This does not count as you having served. So he cuts him loose. The girl who starts school on Wednesday, he goes, you start school on Wednesday? Enjoy your school. I will let you go. And the two single parents, I will let you go. They get excused. Mr. Schmidt, I'm sorry. Unfortunately, we've decided that you're going to stay.
Jesus.
5 of us. He cuts loose the other. He cuts loose one because he likes to drive along in a police car. He cuts loose one because she's got to get ready for school for 2 days. And then he cuts loose the other two who I understand. They're single parents and they have genuine fucking hardships. They have jobs. They raise kids. They shouldn't be there. But these two kids, because they were both 20, fucking you should be learning. Go. This is civics. I'm 45. I'm old and dead. I'm a husk. You don't want me in here fucking listening to this goddamn trial. I'm the last guy who should learn about this shit. Get me the fuck out of here. My life is finished. My life is over. You're the people who should learn, but instead, then that kid's a cop. He's going to be a cop. Why wouldn't he want valuable courtroom experience? But no, he cuts them loose. He sends them, and I have to fucking stay. And he goes, all right. And so we're going to take a recess. This is our jury. Our jury has been seated. And when we come back, we'll actually start to hear some of the initial arguments and possibly, hopefully, get some initial opening statements. So, and I'm not even listening. I get up, and he's like, all right, here you can go. And I walked outside into the hallway. And the hallway is this pristine marble. There's benches where you can sit in, and there's courtrooms all over. And it's pristine marble walls and floor. And I walked out into the hallway. And I knew enough. I was mad, but I knew enough that I couldn't scream at the top of my lungs. Okay? But I got out into the fucking hallway, and I just went, fuck! Not crazy loud, but about that level. But I wanted to scream it as loud as I could. And then, because I couldn't yell out my rage, and I was so pissed, because I knew, here's the thing, all right? I don't mind civic duty. I don't care about jury. It would be interesting to me if it wasn't for the fact that it was going to fuck my next 5 days in the ass by ruining sleep. By having to work graveyard and then getting up and going to the fucking courthouse. That would mean I would have to drive in traffic and fucking hassle. Again, you don't make Dracula buy a farm. I'm driving. I'm fucking there. I got to be in the daytime. I just didn't want to do it. So instead of being able to yell in the hallway and scream as loud as I wanted to, here's what I did, folks, because I'm smart. I ran full speed into the wall. Just to get out like my aggression, my kinetic energy. I got into the hallway and I was like, fuck! And I ran and I just shoulder blocked the fucking wall as hard as I could. Bounced off, turned around. A couple of people were looking at me like, what the fuck is wrong with you, dude? People came out of the courthouse that I had rammed my shoulder into the wall because they heard a huge thump on the wall. And they just kind of like looked around. Nobody knew what was going on because there was nothing going on in the hallway except for a 45-year-old man who now can't lift his right arm. because I had gone right shoulder first directly into the marble wall as fast as I possibly could. And I forgot I'm not young anymore when I could do that kind of shit and just be fine. Immediately, my shoulder went numb and seized up. And I'm standing there, and I don't want to rub it because people saw me run into the goddamn wall. So you can't rub it. You have to just fucking instead seethe and walk and look around and have everybody avoid eye contact with the maniac in the goddamn hallway. And I've got my bag slung over my shoulder, and my arm hurts so bad, but I refuse to touch it. I can't because people saw. So I take a walk, I get into the men's room, and then when I'm out of the sight of everybody, I make a face, I'm like, fuck. And I reach my shoulder, and I have to move it with my left hand, because I can't move my shoulder. I have to actually physically move it with my left hand back and forth to try to work out whatever the pain is. And it hurt, it hurt all the way through. I walk out, go down the hallway, and it's so funny. Real people, well-adjusted people, just understand that this is what happens. So the other people on the jury are in the hallway, and they're just kind of like, yeah, well, we're on a jury. We'll make the best of it. That's not acceptable to me. I'm still trying to think about what I can do, what lever I can pull to get me out of this fucking situation. But there isn't one. And I'm fueled up on rage. So I'm like, you know what? Just fucking hope that it goes quick. There's nothing you can do. If you're going to get raped by a gavel, sit back and enjoy it. So I go into the courtroom. They call us in. They call roll. They seat us. And he's like, all right. We sit in our chairs. There are people in the jury box, and then we sit in our back chairs. He goes, all right, we are now going to constitute the jury in order and assign you seats. And you will now be known as that juror whenever you are called upon. And he calls number 18, which is me. And I walk up and he goes, you're going to be juror number 8. Because there's 7 seats along the top, and then there's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. There's 6 along the bottom. And juror 8 is on the end, in the front row on the far left. He goes, you're going to be on the end. And I'm still pissed. He goes, you're juror 8. He goes, I seated you there because in case you need to stand up and stretch, because I understand your biological clock is going to be all screwed up. This will help you. And I went, wow, that's hilarious.
Oh my god!
And I walked over and I sat down because I was so pissed. Like I thought maybe if I smarted off, I would actually get sent out or something. But I went, that's hilarious. And I went and he didn't say anything because he's an awesome guy, and he understood that I think he probably heard me scream fuck in the hallway. And he instead of taking me on and acting like I was a dick and he was going to prove me, he knew the situation I had been put in, and he tried to bring levity to it. I didn't want him to, and I certainly wasn't hearing it at that moment, but I kind of, in retrospect, when I thought about it, I respected it, because he could have been a dick to me. He could have made me sit in the middle at the top. He could have done anything to me, but he tried to accommodate me, and he understood that I was in a situation. So I was seated as number 8, and then it was time for opening arguments. And I'm sitting in the jury, and I'm still clouded with rage and also fatigue, man. I'm tired. I haven't been to bed. And it's been a long day of waiting. You know, we got there at 7:30. And we sit down at like 3 o'clock. 3:15 after the breaks and all the fucking nonsense. And they make us stand up and they swear us in. We're sworn in as jurors. We have to sit down. And then he has instructions that he has to read to us. And that's like 15 minutes. So we start reading the instructions. He starts, making sure we understand what we're there for and we're listening. And again, he read very well. He was a nice man, but it didn't matter. I was in a fucking coma at that point and still could not lift my arm. So I'm sitting there in pain, furious, like a wounded animal. Like I felt like an animal caught in a trap, but I couldn't gnaw off a limb and get away. I was just forced to sit there and die with my bad wheel and my bad fucking shoulder. I got my knee stretched out and my shoulders fucked up. And the whole time I'm sitting there in my head, I'm drawing a Venn diagram of all the people who were dismissed and where they intersected and how I could have possibly done it. If only I was an Asian lawyer building owner, I would have gotten fucking out of there. If only I was a student / ride-along cop who had a single mom. I don't know what the fuck. I had a single mom. I needed to be a single mom. Jesus. I should have done that. I should have just come in like a smock and dressed up like a single mom with a goddamn wig on. That's what I'll do next time. I'm showing up in drag. Fuck. I need a list. And it's funny, once I put it that I was on jury duty in Facebook, people wrote me and they're like, why didn't you do what I told you to do? Because I don't know who you are. You could have been playing some ridiculous prank and I'm going to wind up in jail. I don't know. And I also thought I had guile and wits and I was going to be able to get the fuck out of there. It's not my fault that they chose me. Actually, it is, I guess, because I was smart. I'm smart. Why the fuck are you picking me? I'm smart. You don't want smart people. So he reads the instructions. My brain is just racing, and I'm waiting. And it's like 3:30 now. We've been there since 7:30. We've been through lunch breaks, fucking lists, and no hard work, no hard heavy lifting. Just the arduous matters of law as they try to figure out who the fuck's going to listen to this case. So it gets to be, I think it's 3:30, might have even been 3:45. And the judge, after he finishes the instructions, he gets us all squared away. He talks to the lawyers and he says, hey, you know what? And I'm a little foggy on this, all right? I haven't had a lot of sleep. But he looks and he's like, you know what? It's been a long day. I'm going to let you guys go a little early. And then tomorrow morning we'll pick it up. We'll start to hear opening arguments and we'll bring up the witnesses and we'll start the case. But right now our jury is seated. Remember the admonition that I just read to you, and remember that you can't discuss the case with anyone. So he lets us out early. Now, if you would have asked me, I would have stayed till fucking 9:30 and just gotten it over with and finished. I don't care. Seriously. Marathon court. Let's just be in there. Let's bring in Bull and Selma Diamond and fucking Lara Kett and Marky Post, and let's finish this motherfucker with the moon in the air. I don't care. Night court the shit out of this case. Get me out of here. It's a foreclosure with a guy living in a fucking restaurant. Who cares? And literally, when they start telling us what it's about, well, I'll get to that. So I leave. I go home. And I tell Karen I'm picked for a jury. I put it on Facebook. I'm so pissed. And between people saying, oh, that's terrible, and ha-ha, jerk, on America's Yearbook. And then I'm telling Karen, she's like, oh, gee, that's terrible. Like, she doesn't even care. She cared, I guess, but I found out how much she cared when I was driving on Monday. And I was stuck in fucking traffic Monday, and I called her. And she's like, oh, so, you know, how's it going? And I said, oh, I'm stuck, and it's traffic. It's just really bad. It's not moving. And she said something to the effect of, oh, it's almost like you have a real job. And I was like, what? And she goes, well, no, it's just, you know, because you don't know what it's like to be out in traffic, and now you do. And it was just, she's sick of me at this point, I think. That's probably what it is. Because, you know, you guys hear it here, but she hears it in real life, and she hears it every day. She hears me bitch about being picked for jury duty. She hears me bitch about being held captive and talked at in my work for hours and hours by someone who shouldn't be doing that. And she's tired of it. And so but the hard thing is, that's who I have to talk to. Other than you guys, I talk to you guys once a week. But that's the person I have to talk to. So then when I start talking to her, and you know what's funny? This is going to be a cat's in the cradle moment, and I apologize. But I started to tell her something about my work and something that happened. Someone came in the office. They would not stop bothering me. I've told you stories about that. And I started to tell her an anecdote that the person told me, and then literally, my wife just looks at me and goes, then quit. And I froze and I went, what? She goes, quit, Michael. You keep telling me about this and it just gets worse. Just quit. And I was pissed because basically what she said was, shut up. That's all she said. She didn't say, you know, that's what she was saying was, hey, shut the fuck up. I don't care. But in that moment, I also realized I do that all the fucking time to her. All the time. And it made me realize just how awful it feels to have it done to you when you're just relaying something that you're frustrated about and you're trying to get it out. Because she will do that to me. She'll start a story and she'll start to tell me something and I'll say, stop. Does this have a good ending? And she'll go, what? And I go, am I going to be pissed? Am I going to want to beat guys up because they were mean to you at a gas station? I need to know this has a good ending. And she'll be like, yeah, I guess so. And I go, okay, then go ahead and tell me. Because she'll tell me things that wind up being frustrating, and I don't want to hear it because I'm frustrated that I can't do anything about it because I'm a fixer, and that's me, and I'm stupid. But when I started to tell her, and she froze, and she just goes, then quit, enough, Michael. It was brutal, and I realized She'd grown up just like me. My wife was just like me. The cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon. Little boy blue, I wish I could go to court when there was a moon. All right, so I get dismissed and go home Thursday, and I'm pondering suicide. Like, I can't understand. I should tell you, when he dismissed us, by the way, I don't know if I may have already said this. He said the next morning he had judge stuff to take care of. So court would not start until 10:30 a.m. Now, that's even worse for me because I'm going to be staying up to go to court. But in my head, I tried to spin it. I'm like, well, I can get some sleep now, maybe a little extra hour. That's fine. So Thursday, I couldn't do any of my social media stuff that I was supposed to do. I couldn't go on America's Yearbook. I couldn't answer emails. Who am I kidding? I haven't been answering emails in a long time. Who cares? You care. Everybody cares. But I actually tried to get some sleep Thursday night. And I sat in the chair and tried to nod off. And I caught a half hour here and there, but I could not sleep because it was dark outside. I know it just sounds weird. My body is conditioned to be awake at night. And also, if I wake up and see the sun, it's conditioned to be awake during the day. It's bullshit. Go read any study about people who work graveyard. They all die like 30 years early. 30 seems high. But I'm sitting there trying to sleep and I can't. I'm kind of tossing and turning. Me, who can sleep anywhere, I'm grabbing a half hour here and there. And then finally I hear Karen wake up at 6. So I get up and I talk to her. And I get up and I start to go online and I do some stuff. And I finally have some toast. And I'm like, fuck it. You just got to go to work. Just go to the fucking courthouse. So I drive. I get there in time. Go upstairs. There's the other jurors. We wait. We go in. And we're seated. The judge is great at 10:30. And he tells us, hey, you know what? I may, depending on the way we progress today, I may cut you loose a little early for lunch so you can go up on the roof and see the Space Shuttle Endeavour as it flies over Los Angeles.
Jesus Christ.
And everybody in the jury box, they actually clapped. People in the jury box clapped. And I sat there and went in my head, what the fuck are you talking about? Get this over with. Because I didn't even know what the fuck he was talking about. Like, he's like, the shuttle's going to go by. And I thought, don't they launch the shuttles in Florida? That's how out of it I was, folks, from not sleeping or whatever. I didn't know what he meant. So they start opening arguments. And Mubasser stands up and he starts to put out the plaintiff's case, which essentially gets to the fact that in like 2007, these people defaulted on their loan. Or it might have been 2009. It was 2009. These people defaulted on their loan. And so they seized the restaurant. They closed it up, but now these people won't leave. They've been evicted. And then in a foreclosure sale, the company, 844 LBLA LLC, bought back the property after having established the loan to this guy. He paid on the loan for 3 years, and then he missed some payments, so they took the restaurant back, and then they rebought it in foreclosure, and then they're kicking him out, and he won't leave. He claims that he lives there. They claim it's a restaurant. So, and then Mubasser, by the way, the way I just explained it to you, infinitely more clear than Mr. Mubasser explained it. He's up there, and he's talking in his ill-fitting suit. Look, it's show a little bit of cuff. Not hide half your hand. That's a tip for jackets, men. When you're getting a suit made, show a little bit of cuff, not hide half your hand. He looks like he's shrinking before our very eyes. So he goes through and he's reading right off a legal pad, and he's reading, and he keeps, it's that thing where he keeps linking onto words. He keeps saying the word sham. He keeps saying the word sham in his opening argument. This is a sham, this is a sham, and that's a sham, and they're a sham. Everything's a goddamn sham with this guy. So he finishes his opening argument and he sits down, and I'm like, that was awful. Now it's time for Mr. Park to seize this case by the throat. He stands up in an even more ill-fitting suit, to the point where it looks like he had borrowed one of Mr. Mubasser's suits, and it fits him even worse. And oh, by the way, he's wearing the same suit he wore the previous day. Now, I'm not a suit guy. I guess you're supposed to do that, right? Like, you can wear suits multiple days. I don't think if you're seeing the same people over and over that you should be able to wear the same suit day after day. Change it up. Change the tie, at least. Whole thing. Whole ensemble. And he's got he's completely bald, Mr. Park. He's completely bald and clean shaven, but he needs to shave his head. Like, he's getting a 5 o'clock head shadow and a 5 o'clock face shadow. And it's fucking 10:30 in the morning. Get a fucking head blade, Park. So he starts with his opening thing, and he makes Mubasser look like Perry fucking Mason. I mean, it is just, He's stumbling over words. He starts injecting things that he goes, you're going to hear a lot of terrible things in this case. I'm going to bring to light a lot of things, a lot of mistakes that were made. And Mubasser objects a couple of times and for conjecture and whatever the fuck. He keeps objecting and they're sustained. And Ankeko is like, all right, well, it's fine. It's sustained. He's elegant up on the stand, up on the judge's chambers, whatever the fuck. No, he's not on the chamber. He's on the stand, right? The bench. That's where he is. And then Park just continues stepping on his dick. He takes forever, and he's shuffling papers. He's dry mouthed. He's nervous. He's actually drinking water in the middle of his opening statement. Like, it's just every terrible cliche you could ever imagine about how bad a lawyer would be, other than saying, my guilty client, what? Excuse me, I didn't mean that. So he finishes his opening statement. He sits down. Time for witnesses. So Mubasser gets to call the first witness. And listen, I'm not going to lie to you folks. It's this endless parade of Asians. So they're all named Young and Lin and Soon and, which is fine. Good for them. But he brings this dude on stage up to the stand. And he's got like Justin Bieber hair, like all combed forward, like that kind of like big mib. And he sits down and they start asking him questions. It turns out he's the property manager for that space. And they ask him about square footage and they ask him about the people living there and if it's a restaurant when they foreclosed and it's all. Mubasser is standing up and asking questions. He's walking around, but again, he's even tripping over his words. And then, Park is objecting Park, by the way, sitting down in his seat, never stands up once. He stood up to do his opening argument and then sat rooted to the chair the rest of the trial. Never stood up to ask a question. He would stand up to bring evidence to the judge or to the stand and then immediately go back and sit right down. Not 1 ounce of dynamic courtroom personality. And I will tell you, watching this unfold over 3 days, it gave me a real appreciation for writers in Hollywood who write courtroom dramas. Because if these shows were anything like what I had to sit through the last 3 days, nobody would watch a fucking minute of them. Not a minute. And that's why they have wacky cases where it's like, William Shatner and James Spader have to switch clothes in the middle of a case. Who the fuck knows? I don't know. That's The Practice, Boston Legal. All of those shows are fucking ridiculous. And you watch them and you're like, I don't know why you're watching courtroom dramas. Dude, I lived a real life courtroom drama and it was grim. It was terrible. So Park is up. He's stepping on his dick and he sits down. They bring up the witness and Mubasser's talking to him. Before they're going to cross him, we're going to go to watch the space shuttle at 11:30. He gets us loose. We go up to and so now we have a 2-hour lunch, 11:30 to 1:30. So I go up top and I actually go on the roof with everybody. I don't know what we're looking for. I have no idea. But everybody's out there with their cameras. And they're talking. And 11:30 becomes 11:40. And there are people on all the rooftops all over Los Angeles. We can see them. It's pretty cool. And I kind of get snippets of what people are saying, that they're going to retire the space shuttle and it's going to fly over Los Angeles. I don't realize that. But I'm like, all right, cool. I got my phone. And it becomes 11:40. It gets to be about 11:45. And there's a couple of people next to me and they start bitching. Where is this thing? And this woman goes, yeah, I know. They said 11:30. And he goes, well, and one guy goes, well, maybe it was late. Maybe it got a late start or whatever. The guy goes, late? It's the space shuttle. I mean, it's flying. It should be here. It's right. It's flying. It should be on time. And another guy's like, well, when did you ever know anything that flew to be on time? Ha, ha, ha. And they start laughing. And he goes, well, I'm going to give this thing 5 more minutes and I'm going to head in. And I laughed. I was like, ha ha. And this woman looked at me. I said, I think it's hilarious that there's a group of people standing on a skyscraper in Los Angeles bitching that the space shuttle isn't here on time. And she looks at me and she goes, well, they did say 11:30. I said, I don't care. I said, how spoiled are these people that they're standing on a high rise, the roof of a high rise, with the cameras in their phones to take pictures of the space shuttle as it goes by, and they're mad it's not on the time frame of Lawyer Tom from Altadena. And she thinks I'm taking that all too seriously, so she walks away. But I'm horrified. Who the fuck is bitching about the space shuttle arriving on time? And so they're bitching and moaning, and a couple guys go inside, and then there's more people that come outside, so it's kind of a really populated roof. And all of a sudden, we just hear a cheer. People start screaming, and around the corner, unbelievably, is the space shuttle. I woke up that morning knowing nothing about it. 3 hours later, I'm standing on the roof and seeing it go by, and it's right there. So scarily, it looked like 9/11. Like, it's that low, because it comes over Los Angeles, and I'm like, what the fuck? And it's on a plane with the space shuttle on top of it, and it flies out, and I filmed it. It doesn't look as impressive on my phone. I should have taken photos because it was much closer to the naked eye than it was on the phone filming. But it goes by, and you saw it. It came through, and everybody starts cheering and waving. And all of a sudden, you just hear brakes down on the ground. You look on the street, and everybody hits their fucking brakes. They're getting out of their cars, watching it go over, and it flies by. It was amazing. So I'm happy that he cut us loose to go check it out. And then I go into the lunchroom and I grab another Ichi roll, some sushi with some avocado and shrimp on top of it. Because again, I'm hoping to get sick. Anything at all. And I should tell you this, when I walked in, the guy goes, "Hey, Ichi roll today, sir?" He recognized me, knew my order. I grab it, I go pay for it. And as I'm sitting down, people start yelling and I run back outside and the shuttle came back around. So it came back around, I'm watching it again. It seems even closer this time. And it goes around and I go sit down and I got my earbuds in. And out of the corner of my eye, I see there's a few people left on the patio, and it comes back again, like a third time, even closer. And people are just like, we saw it. There's some people outside taking pictures, but I run right to the window, and there's probably a third of the people still on the roof, and it's even closer this time. And I wanted to try and film it, but I couldn't, and because it was too quick this time. But it was amazing. It was amazing to see. So that cheered me up a little bit. And I ate some sushi and then went back on fucking America's Yearbook and bitched. So 1:30 we go upstairs, and we're in the hallway, and 1:30 becomes 1:45 because he's doing some judge stuff. And then we sit down. He's like, "All right, well, thank you. I'm glad that you're all here." And we all saw the Endeavor. That was pretty amazing. All right, let's start. And he has Mr. Park start his cross-examination of Mr. Young. And I'm going to tell you this now. All right, this is Friday. We're in the middle of the day. And I wish I could tell you interesting things about the case. I wish I could tell you what happened. It was amazing, and there was like these, music stings and the chung chung Law and Order noise and revelations. But in general, this was a horrible experience. I mean, it was so boring. It was so terrible. This guy, Mr. Park, sits at the table, and he starts to question Mr. Young. And every time he says a question to him, he goes, "Mr. Young," and then he asks a question. "All right, thank you, Mr. Young. Mr. Young." And then he asks a question. Mr. Young answers, he goes, "Thank you, Mr. Young. Mr. Young." He keeps saying his name, and he keeps thanking him after every question. And then whenever there's an objection or whether it's overruled or sustained, he'll say, "Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr. Young. Mr. Young. Thank you, Mr. Young." And then Mr. Boster will object, and then he'll say, "It's sustained," and he'll say, "Thank you, Your Honor." And finally the judge goes, "You don't have to thank me every time I rule on something. Let's move forward." And of course they both go, "Thank you, Your Honor." And then Mr. Park keeps going, "Mr. Young." And they keep prefacing things, and they ask questions poorly, I guess. I'm not a lawyer, all right? But I do know, after seeing these guys talk for fucking a couple hours, I'm standing there, and I'm dumbfounded how terrible they are. They keep saying this phrase. You can't just say to someone, "What did you see?" There's that horrible legal dance where you have to couch it in a fucking sentence. So they have to say, "Are you aware in your capacity as property manager?" And they have to say that before every question. So it's like, "Mr. Young, are you aware in your capacity as property manager that there are 4 doors on this building?" And he'll say, "Yes. Thank you, Mr. Young." "Mr. Young, are you aware in your capacity as property manager that the property there at 836 to 844 South La Brea, which was the Ogando Cafe, was owned at one point by Jin Ho Lee?" "Yes, I am aware of that." "Thank you, Mr. Young." "Mr. Young, are you aware in your capacity as property manager who worked for 844 LBLA LLC that the property at 836 to 844 South La Brea is no longer operating as a restaurant?" "Yes, I am aware of that." "Thank you, Mr. Young." "Mr. Young, are you aware in your capacity as property manager for 844 LBLA LLC that the property at 836 to 844 South La Brea was in Koreatown?" "Objection. Calls for legal speculation, Your Honor." And I'm not joking. Imagine that for 4 fucking days. For every witness. First is Mr. Young. Now, I wish to tell you this. All right. I went in, when they told us what the case was about, they tell you shouldn't be prejudiced. You shouldn't have your mind made up. You shouldn't think a certain way. Well, I'm pissed. I don't even want to be in the fucking room. I want it to be over with quick. So I'm prejudiced as all fuck. So when they tell us it's a foreclosure on a guy who couldn't run a restaurant and now won't leave, and they're trying to evict him, I have one sentence in my head. Pay your bills and this won't happen. So as far as I'm concerned, this motherfucker he needs to get out of this building so they can have it back. If you're not paying your bills, they can evict you and you leave. That's it. Well, he starts asking Mr. Young these questions. It turns out Mr. Young went online and determined the square feet. They have to determine how much it was. And then Mr. Park keeps trying to shoehorn in these weird questions. Like he's like, Mr. Young, thank you. Are you aware in your capacity as property manager for 844 LBLA LLC that the FBI is investigating 844 LBLA LLC for their business practices? And the other guy will object. And the judge will say, sustained, keep to this case. He goes, I understand, Your Honor. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Young. Are you aware, Mr. Young, in your capacity as property manager for 844 LBLA LLC, that Sinjun Lee is known for making hard cash loans in Koreatown and has been investigated by the FBI for, and so, objection, sustained. And he just kept trying to throw in all of this weird, fake criminal stuff that may or may not have been true, but it didn't matter. It's that trick where they're trying to get it into your head. So they talked to this guy Young, and then finally, like I said, we got back from lunch at 1:30. At 2:20, the judge says, you know what? I have some things to take care of. We're going to take a recess right here. He sends us on a 15-minute recess. And we walk outside, and we're admonished not to talk about the case at all. All right? We go out into the hallway, and there's guys standing there, jurors, and they're just kind of killing time. And I walk up to there's a group of 4 dudes. And I walk up, and I put my hands on a couple of guys' shoulders, and I go, we can all agree these guys are dumb fucks, right? And one guy looks at me weird, but another guy goes, yes. Like that was what they were discussing. They were discussing the fact that these lawyers are dumb fucks. And they're all like, this isn't about the case, really. These guys are fucking horrible. And we've only sat through, yesterday and today. I mean, we haven't been there for the whole fucking thing yet. And again, I wish, folks, there was interesting things to tell you, but there was nothing interesting. It was death by 1,000 fucking paper cuts. And I was horrified by it because I'm waiting for some twist. I'm waiting for something interesting. They're Koreans. Isn't there a dragon living in this building? Isn't something terrible going to fucking happen at some point? No, it's just a couple of people living in a restaurant that don't want to give it up and the fucking foreclosure company that chased them out. That's it. And back and forth and just parliamentary procedure and another fucking phrase that they would use. So we take that break, we come back, and Mr. Park is still questioning Mr. Young. And I should tell you this, Mr. Park is a terrible lawyer, the worst I've ever seen in my life. He may be the worst public speaker I've ever seen in my entire life. But even worse is Mr. Mubasser, who's not that much better, is actively mocking him from his table. He's laughing when the guy says something wrong or when his objection gets sustained. He smirks. He and the other witness are like commiserating and looking at one another and kind of nodding like, ha, this guy's out of his depth. And it made us hate him more. As bad as Mr. Park was, and as much as I wanted to mutilate him in a fucking fist fight or do anything I could to get him out of that fucking room, I hated Mubasser more because he may have had a day's more worth of training and he's pretending like he's Heffley fucking Bailey. Dude, you're just as bad. We get back after the break. Mr. Young, are you aware? And there's another thing they keep fucking saying. They can't just say, did you know? Because then they'll object and they'll go, it goes to conclusion, Your Honor. It goes to speculation, Your Honor. So they have to say this phrase. Are you aware in your personal percipient observation, Mr. Lee, that at LBLA LLC 84, I mean, like they have to keep saying, are you aware in your personal percipient observation? Are you aware in your personal percipient observation? Are you aware in your personal knowledge? They can't just say, do you know? They have to say in your personal knowledge, in your capacity as property manager, in your capacity as, I mean, it's all fucking Halloween costumes. That's all it is. They've got to keep tarting up the words to get what they want. They can't just have a straight conversation with anybody because the second they start to get any sort of answers or any sort of questioning, there's an objection. Everything steams to a halt. And I sat there wondering how the fuck anything gets done in this country. I don't know where the law has gone. If this is the way every foreclosure is handled, every civil case, this business of moving mountains with spoons over the course of an hour at a time and then leaving for 2 hours to go to lunch, this business of fucking digging out one hole and then taking that dirt and filling it in another hole and then taking that dirt and putting it in the hole you just dug. I mean, all they're doing is carrying water up and down a fucking hill. It was funny. When I went out, it was so bad. We were admonished not to talk about it, okay? After that break, we got back in and then we were in the court for another 45 minutes and he dismissed us. He dismissed us again at 3:30 because it was Friday and he said, you've been here. We were in the court for a total of about 2 hours on Friday. We had to come back fucking Monday. We walked outside and I'm walking with some jurors. And again, it's so bad that we're not supposed to discuss the case. So we don't. But we talk about how horrible it is. Like in code, we all look at one another and go, does this happen all the time? There's no way this is the way the law works. And other people are like, I was on a jury before and it was never like this. And I go, well, then maybe things have just gotten worse. I go, and a guy comes up to me on the street as I'm walking to park my car. He goes, you were right about those guys being dumb fucks. And I go, yes, they are. They're terrible. I don't know how the fuck they're getting past this. They talk in circles. They don't get anything done. They keep objecting. At one point, Park had to enter something into evidence. Mubasser went, good luck. Like under his breath. Like they're fighting with one another, and it's retards fighting. It's not even a good fight. This isn't colossal courtroom struggles between two legal titans. This is two fucking children in short pants slap fighting each other in the mud over a guy who lives in a goddamn restaurant that serves chicken anuses. And that's not even a joke. I Googled their cafe. They serve chicken anuses. It said it on Yelp. Ogondo Cafe, they're specialized in chicken anuses, which makes sense because these two are just fucking eating each other's asses in this courtroom and getting nothing done. I would rather eat a whole bowl of chicken ass than sit through this fucking courtroom case again. So I leave for the weekend, man, and I got to go Saturday, I got to go Sunday, and my body clock's all fucked up because now I have to work Saturday night, so I try to get some sleep when I get back on Friday. I have to stay up and do stuff, and then I finally, at 6 a.m., I'm kind of tired, so I go to bed and I sleep for 3 hours because it's sunny outside. I wake up, and I'm just not able to readjust because I'm usually sleeping during the day, but this time I can't because I have to stay up. Also, in my head, there's no alarm clock where I sleep, because I sleep in the living room now. And I used to have a bedside table that had an alarm clock and a bunch of shit you keep on your bedside table. Well, now I don't sleep in the bedroom anymore because of the fucking infestation that didn't happen, but still in my head it did. So I can't have an alarm clock. So I've had to ask Karen to call me, or I have to rely on my biological clock to wake me up in time. So because I've told my body that, it keeps waking me up every 2 hours, even though I don't need to be up on Saturday or Sunday. Saturday night I go to work. I work all night. Sunday is football Sunday. So usually I stay up until 5. And then I sleep 5 hours, and then I work because I know I'll be able to sleep Monday. Well, I can't. So I try to sleep and then watch the game on TiVo, but I can't. I sleep 2 hours. I get up. I watch the Bears. I try to sleep again, and I can't. I'm up all day Sunday. I work all night Sunday, and then I got to go back to court on Monday. They told us to be there at 9:30. So I get there. I'm in traffic. I call my wife. She tells me it's like I almost have a real job, whatever. So that woke me up. That pissed me off enough to wake me up. So I'm driving. I'm supposed to be there at 9:30, and it's busy on the freeway as I knew it would be, but it's busier because I had to be there at 10:30 on Friday, and I took the freeway and it was okay. But now 9:30, an hour's difference in Los Angeles, you forget, is 1,000 fucking cars. So I actually have to call the courtroom and tell them I'm running late. I said, look, I'm trying to be there by 9:30. I hope I will be if the traffic breaks up. They're nice. They said, great. You're not the only one. So it would have been fine. I get there. It's like I said, it's Monday morning. I get there. I pull off the freeway at 9:20. So I've got to park and hustle. I should get there right around 9:30, maybe 9:35. And I pull in to go park, and then it's a parking lot on Grand. Grand and Temple is where you have to go. You have to park in the Disney Concert Hall parking lot, and nobody's moving. I'm like, why the fuck is nobody moving? So we move up an inch. And I'm sitting there and time's ticking away. I'm sitting there for 15 minutes to make a right-hand turn, and we're not moving. And finally I get close enough to see there's a dual arrow that says you can either go right or left, but you can't go straight. And as I get close enough, I realize they've shut down Grand in front of the Disney Hall because they're building a series of pagodas. I don't know what the fuck that's about. The only thing I can think of is that all of the witnesses from this case have decided to live on the street outside of the courthouse and open up a chicken anus truck and grill it for passerby. What the fuck? They're not living in the building anymore. If they lose this case, they need somewhere to live. They now have pagodas outside of Disney, and they can cook chicken anuses all day long. So I got to drive in circles to try to park. Driving circles. I finally park, and I hustle, and I run. And it's, you get into this parking garage, and it's just a bunch of assholes with those fucking cones and waving you, and you go to park, and they go, sorry, that's reserved, sir, for musicians. There's no concert today. You get that, right? Let me park here. Fuck, I'm late. I drive, I park. Got to go up 9 escalators, cross the street, get in, go through the metal detector, get upstairs. And I apologize to all the other jurors. They go, no, that's okay. Some of us just got here too. We talk about the traffic, commiserate. We finally get seated. We go in. And they continue to talk to Mr. Young. And then they bring up another guy. They bring up another witness. This guy's name is Andrew Eston. And he owns a title company, and he's boring as fuck. And he testifies. that literally, like, it's boring on top of boring on top of boring. It is a boring cake. It's like if you made a white cake with white frosting with white stuff in the center of it. It's fucking grim. It's just so bad. It's just this whole trial is beige. So they bring up this dude, this white dude, and he's up there testifying. And he says that, there was a thing they had to do. All right, they have to serve these people with papers 3 days beforehand to tell them that they've been evicted. So he goes, did you do that? He says, yes. He goes, and they entered the papers into evidence. And he says, did you serve him? And he said, no. And they said, who did? He said, it was a guy named Jay Crawford. And he said, does Jay Crawford work for you? He goes, he did. He worked for me for 9 years. He goes, he no longer works for you? He said, no. He goes, so Mr. Crawford signed these to validate that he delivered them. And they said, yes. And he goes, where's Mr. Crawford today? And he said, he has disappeared. Finally, some intrigue in this case. And Mr. Mubasser said he has disappeared. And Mr. Eston says, yes, he can't be located. He goes, you don't have an address for him? And he said, no. And he goes, did you try to find him? And he said, yes. So the only guy who can testify that he gave the 3-day notice and signed it and handed it to these people to tell them they were evicted from the restaurant has disappeared into thin air. And nobody knows where he is. But this guy is testifying, I know Mr. Crawford. He worked for me for 9 years, and he would not sign anything that he didn't deliver. Well, good for you, Mr. Eston, except all you are is a dumb fuck white guy in a short-sleeve yellow button-down shirt. We don't know whether to trust you or not. But good for you for backing up the ghost of Mr. Crawford. So he leaves. They call another witness. This is a woman named Yi Jun. And as Yi Jun takes the stand, I can't, look, I've told you it already, but I have to do it again. Mr. Mubasser asks her some questions and she answers them, and that's fine. Then it's to Mr. Park. Miss Yi Jun, thank you. Are you aware, in your capacity as an employee for 844 LLC, what you do for the company? Yes, I'm the bookkeeper. Could you spell your name for us, please? She spells her name. And he says, how long have you worked in this capacity? So he goes through the boring interview. And again, I have to spare you. I will put you to sleep if I do it the way he did it. Are you aware, in your personal percipient observation, that as a bookkeeper for 844 LLC, that hard cash loans were made in the Korean village? Yeah, and again, objection, they sustained. So he starts asking her questions about being a bookkeeper. And it turns out she's a bookkeeper for 844 LLC, but she's also a real estate person. She's a real estate salesperson. Her husband is a real estate broker. She does the books for 844 LLC for Sin Yun Park, who owns 844 LLC. By the way, Sin Yun Park is the manager of 844 LLC. She's in Korea. She can't be called upon to testify. Probably driven there by Mr. Crawford, no doubt. So they start asking Ms. Jun these questions about bookkeeping, and she mentions that she works for free for 844 LLC and doing their books, which seems odd to me. And also, I should tell you this, by the way. Another thing he keeps asking about the FBI investigating them for like these hardcore loans, and also they're known for making hard cash loans in Koreatown. He had asked Mr. Young earlier, I forgot. Mr. Young, in your capacity as property manager for 844 LLC, were you aware that at 836 to 844 South La Brea, that the dogs were stolen from my client as they came in to try to evict him, and objection sustained? He keeps trying to get in the fact that the dogs were stolen. He also keeps trying to get into evidence, Mr. Park. He keeps trying to get into evidence the fact that they live there. And it keeps getting objected, and it keeps getting sustained, because it's not about them living there. It's about it being a restaurant. So he can't talk about them living there. But he wants to desperately, because he wants us to know that they live there. So, and I apologize. I'm out of order here because I'm a little foggy. They talked to Mr. Young, and then they brought up Jin Ho Lee's bookkeeper. And they ask her who gets the mail. And she says she gets it sometimes. They go, do you open it? She goes, not if it's not addressed to me. Okay, well, are you aware in your capacity as bookkeeper for Jin Ho Lee at Ogando Cafe at 836 to 844 South La Brea that you live there? Is that your residence? Objection sustained. All these, they keep trying to wedge it in. So they talk to that bookkeeper. They finally get this, the white guy up on there, and then they get this new woman who works for free for 844 LLC. And by the way, if you think I'm having a hard time saying it, they kept saying 844 And they would just abbreviate it at that. They stopped saying LLC after a while. And they would also chili dip it half the time. 844 LBA, LBLCC. I mean, like they kept, because they're fucking terrible lawyers. They don't get it right, and they keep repeating it over and over. If I make that mistake, I'm a dumb fuck podcaster. If they make that mistake, dudes, you know the case. And since 2008, you've been in court battling each other over it. I have to think that 844 LBLA LLC named themselves that so no one would ever take them to court. Because they didn't want to say it over and fucking over. So this bookkeeper testifies that she works for free. And so they enter into evidence all of the bookkeeping and all the things that she signed, all the letters that she prepared. And Mr. Park says, "Is this your signature at the bottom?" She says, "No, it's my husband's signature." And he goes, "I noticed that your husband has signed all of these and you signed none of them." And she goes, "That's right. He's a broker." And he goes, "Well, you prepared the books." And she goes, "Yes, but I definitely checked everything and I assured him that it was right." And he goes, "Well, does he work for 844 LBLA LLC?" And she says, "No." "So he's not a bookkeeper in that capacity?" "No." "Well, then why would he sign these and you wouldn't sign them?" She goes, "Because I don't always have time to sign them." So wait a second. And I'm waiting for him to say, because again, he's a terrible lawyer, so he doesn't pin her down on it. He's just asking in circles. But what he should have said was, "You're the bookkeeper who works for free, and you prepared all of these yourself, all of these financial documents, but you don't have time to sign them? Why not?" But he never fully asks her that. He just keeps talking in fucking circles and lets her off the hook. So they dismiss her. She's off the stand. Hey, guess what? Time for lunch. It's 11:30. 11:45, so I'm going to let you go a little earlier for lunch.
Jesus.
Be back at 1:30. We go to lunch. We walk outside, and all of us are just staring at one another, just shell-shocked. It is truly like being held hostage. You know what I mean? I know how the guys in Iran felt in 1979, where you just make eye contact and go, "Yep, that's right. I've been through this." And you can say that I don't. You can shake your head, but I do, damn it. I haven't got to the part where we ate a guy. So we go to lunch, and I walk in, and the guys are like, hey, Ichi-roll. I'm like, hey, of course. I grab my sushi. I pay for it. I sit down. And then I'm like convinced that I want to just boredom eat everything. Like I want to eat a million things because it's 2 hours. I'm just fucking sitting there. Facebook, earbuds, finishes. We go upstairs at 1:30. They don't see us until 1:45 because they're doing Judge Matters, and he's in there with the lawyers scolding whatever he's doing. So we finally get called in. And they talk to Wee Jun Lee, and she's dismissed finally. And then they call Alan Park. You know, and I'm not doing this justice, all right? When I say they call a witness, all right, Mr. Mubasser will call this guy, Mr. Young. He'll talk to him for 20 minutes. And then the judge will go, "How much longer with this witness?" And he'll go, 5 minutes, Your Honor. So he'll take another 5 to 7 minutes, and then it's time to cross-examine. So Mr. Park will get to cross-examine him. He'll take 20 minutes. And then the judge will say, "How much longer for this guy?" He'll go 5 to 7 minutes, Your Honor, and he'll take 5 to 7 minutes. And then Mr. Mubasser gets to rebut the cross. And he gets to talk to this motherfucker again, and he'll talk for 5 minutes. And then Mr. fucking Park gets to try to rebut the fucking rebuttal of the cross. So they'll talk to this dude for an hour and a half and ask him the same shit over and fucking over and fucking over. And they do it with every witness. Rebuttal, cross rebuttal, cross-subtle, reboss, all of it. They're doing it all. So we go back into the courtroom, and they're talking and rebutting, and they're crossing, and they're discussing. And Mr. Park he keeps trying to hammer the fact that she lived there and it was a residence. So then and then they bring up Alan Park. He's not related, obviously, to the lawyer. He's related to Sin Yun Park. He's the son of the woman who fled to Korea to avoid being talked to. So he walks in. He looks like fucking Korean Ricky Gervais, first of all. Same thing. Same kind of like tight shirt and the fucking hair blown out. And I will tell you this. This is not a joke. He walks in, and right when he walked in and he sat down, in my head, I went, "This guy doesn't know a fucking thing." He just looked like a young guy who got sucked up into it. I mean, I'm not even joking. I swear to God, that's what I thought the second I saw him. But, you know, you're not supposed to be prejudiced in these cases. And I'm using up all my hate on Mr. Park and Mr. Mubasser at this point. So they start asking him questions, this dude. And Mr. Mubasser starts asking him. And all Mr. Mubasser asks him is, "Am I your lawyer?" He says, "Yes." He goes, "Are you paid up in full?" on everything? And he goes, yes, up to last month. And he goes, you came in and you hired me, right? You signed this retainer, right? He just starts asking him questions about him being his lawyer. He doesn't ask him any questions at all about the business or anything. Just asks him these vague questions about hiring a lawyer. And he takes 10 minutes to fucking do it. So he finally finishes. So now it's time for Mr. Park to cross-examine him. And Mr. Park, by the way, I should tell you this. I'm jumping all over because I'm even bored of this fucking story. Because I lived it. But when Mr. Park, who we hated, all right, we couldn't stand him, all of the jurors, when he got onto the woman who didn't sign the financial documents, and he found out that she didn't and her husband did, he started to up the pace of his questioning. And he still called her by her name every single time and all that, but you could see he had momentum. And he started to actually kind of dig and make some points, like he was scoring a little bit. And then when we went to recess, we walked out into the hallway, and as we're walking to lunch, we're all looking at one another. And there was the guy who I had put my shoulder on and said, these guys are dumb fucks, and who had talked to me outside, looks at me and I go, your boy with a rally late. And he goes, yeah, you could see it happen. And I go, yeah. So he gets that Mr. Park on the stand, and he starts asking him questions about loan numbers and the business and what he does. And this guy doesn't answer a fucking question. Like he doesn't know anything at all. He goes, look, I'm just the manager. I don't, those people do all the work, my Mr. Young and Miss June. And he goes, well, but it's your mom's the manager. And he goes, well, no, I'm the manager. He goes, so where's your mom? And he goes, well, she was in Korea now, and now I'm the manager. He goes, so if she comes back, she has no capacity. He goes, well, she's not here now. It doesn't matter. He goes, I'm the manager, so I can answer your questions. So then he asks him the questions, and he doesn't know a fucking thing. I don't know what that is. Ask them. I don't know. And then he sneaks in, how many times have you been to Algamdo Cafe? And he goes, well, we were friends with the family, so we would eat there all the time. He goes, all the time. So you're aware that the property between 836 and 844 South La Brea is a restaurant and a residence? And he's like, no, it's not. It's not a residence. That's not true. And he goes, well, I'm telling you that it is definitely and it's objection sustained. So he then says, when we were at the property, because we used to eat there all the time, and I was there twice to evict. When you went to evict, did you try to steal the 2 Maltese dogs that belonged to my customer? Oh my God, objection sustained. He just keeps trying to wedge in the FBI and the fucking loans and the dogs being stolen. So time for rebuttal. He finishes with him, and this guy is a terrible witness. He doesn't know a fucking thing. So Mubasser stands up to cross him, and he goes to rebut him, and he goes, let's talk about the property 836 to 844. It is a restaurant, Algamdo Cafe, correct? And he goes, yes. And he goes, and you've been there many times. You said you've been there to eat and to evict. And he says, yes. And he goes, and you've been upstairs in the residential part of the complex? And everybody in the jury freezes. Because Mr. Park has been trying desperately for 2 days to get the residential part admitted into evidence. And every time he brings it up, they shoot him down. Well, now, dumb fuck Mubasser says, have you ever been upstairs into the residential part of the complex? Now we know people can live there. It's been entered in. The door is open. As they say in Cartroom shows, the door has been opened. Walk through it, Park. So all of us freeze and we're waiting, and we always make eye contact at one another finally, I can't believe that happened, because every one of us, we've seen CSI, we've seen Law & Order, we're a million fucking steps ahead of these guys. I went home, this is not a joke, I went home Friday after the court case, and Karen had left. She had gone to San Diego for the weekend, and we were on the phone, and I'm bitching, of course, about the fucking whole thing, and I told her, I go, this is terrible for me to say, but it's true. I'm the smartest guy in the fucking room. And she goes, well, I go, other than the judge, I am the smartest person in the courtroom. I go, that's terrible. And I'm talking lawyers, judges, fucking court people, everybody. I'm the smartest guy. I just got to get the fuck out of there. It's driving me crazy. Until Monday, when I wind up actually talking to my fellow jurors, and I realize they're all smart too. All of them know what's going on. I'm not the only one suffering in silence. We're all suffering. We all hate it. And we're all a million miles ahead of the fucking prosecution. So he opens the door, he finishes his rebuttal, and it's time for the rebuttal cross. Park never brings it up. Never says he said it's a residential, who lives there. He never, ever brings it up. He goes back to the dogs. He goes back to, where do you work? The guy runs a motel in Redondo Beach and a nightclub. He has no idea what's going on with this business. He's a front man for his mom who fled to Korea. So they finish with him. It's 3:30. He gets off, and the judge says, all right, well, do you have another witness? And Mubasser says, yes, I do. I have another witness. He goes, well, why don't we hold him till tomorrow? This is on Monday. Because I thought we were going to get done. I thought we were going to get the case on Monday and fucking deliberate and be gone. And he goes, let's hold it till tomorrow. And my heart sinks because now I got to come again. I got to work that night, and I've slept an hour and a half. I've slept a total of 5 hours in 3 days. I had been up for 31 consecutive hours. The bailiff keeps coming up to me and handing me water and like tapping me on the knee. And I never fell asleep. I had my eyes closed and listened, but they thought when my eyes were closed that I was asleep. So they kept coming over to tap me on the leg or give me water. And I was like, I assured her, I said I was fine. But then at one point I looked at her and I go, I'm in trouble. So you should probably keep an eye on me. She's like, okay. But Monday they dismiss us and they cut us loose. So I drive home, and I got to drive home in afternoon traffic. So I don't get home until like 6 o'clock. And then I've got to go to work at 10. So I sit down to try to sleep. I grab an hour and a half, 2 hours of sleep. Fitful, not out like a light. And I get up and I go to work on Monday night. And I'm a zombie there, you know what I mean? Trying not to sleep, which is fine. And again, I really wish this was a more exciting story. I really wish I had more, like there was great things to tell you, but the courtroom was boring as fuck. I mean, it was just terrible. There was nothing happening. So we show up in the morning at 9:30, and again, I'm running late, and then the traffic is not helping me. I get upstairs, we get seated, and they call their next witness, and they call this guy Mr. Almond, I forget, and he goes up and he runs the. There's certain things you have to do with the foreclosure, all right? I found out you have to hand them a note 3 days before. Also, for 3 weeks before, you have to run an ad in the local paper of circulation that says there's going to be a trustee sale where you offer the property up for sale, and they need to either make good on their payments before then or the sale happens. But they have 3 weeks of notices. So they get this guy up, and he's the guy from Chicago Title. And he is the one who handles the trustee sale. And he is also handling the telling of the people that they have to go and all that sort of stuff. So he mentions that they put an ad in a paper. It was Metropolitan Circulations, Inc. I don't know what that is. So Mr. Mubasser says to him, well, what you put that in? And he goes, yes, you could do it for 3 weeks. Yes, we did. The ad ran. He goes, where did you hold the estate sale? We held it outside of our building on Brand Boulevard in Glendale. He basically just coaches him through it. And Mubasser is standing up. Mubasser is even worse than Park. Because again, Park is talking quietly and won't stand up. Mubasser is pretending like he's a lawyer. He's walking around with a legal pad in his hand and making sweeping gestures, even though none of his words approaches anything that would be in a legal dictionary. It's all just complicated mumbo jumbo that he thinks is making sense, but it's not. So he finally finishes with that dude. So then Mr. Park starts asking the guy questions. And again, with the fucking, are you aware in your personal percipient observation as a person who goes and went for Chicago Title, whatever the fuck, that 844 LBLA LLC, and all of us hate it. So Mr. Park asks him questions and says, did you go, basically, I'm going to boil it down, all right? The language was awful. But he says to him, did you put a notice on the restaurant? And he says, yes. And he says, and how do you know you did? And he's like, I know. I go there and I have to tape it to the door. I show up and he goes, well, where did you go? And he goes, I went to the property. He goes, how do you know you were at the property? He said, well, I put it into my GPS and I showed up and I went to the front door and I put it on there. And he goes, well, we all know the GPSs are not fallible. They're probably wrong 25% of the time. Objection, sustained. And even the judge goes, I didn't know that. He's like, well, Your Honor, I'm just trying to establish. He goes, just move forward. And I should tell you this too. Judge Onkeko was very polite and nice to the jurors. He liked us. And on Thursday, he was very nice. On Friday, he was businesslike, but he was nice to us, and he let us go look at the shuttle, and he was very accommodating, and he kept giving us recesses. So then Monday, he all of a sudden turned into a new guy. Like he was really short with the lawyers, and he kept telling them, "Don't do that, don't do this, don't thank me, don't thank them. You don't have to say the name every time. You don't have to preface everything with this." And he was teaching law school in his courtroom. So Tuesday morning, Mr. Park is asking questions, and the judge is getting sick of it. Everybody's sick of it. But then he says, you have these pieces of paper that were filed. Did you file them? No. And he goes, no, they were filed by my assistant. And he goes, what's your assistant name? Beverly Grand or whatever. And he says, okay. And he goes, but her name's not Grand anymore. She's a Virgo. She's become married. Yay, whatever. Who cares? No one cares. And he says, okay, so she filed those. He said, yes. And he goes, and then you went and you placed the form on the wall on the door of the business? And he said, yes. And he goes, can you tell me what Beverly looks like? And Mubasser goes, objection. And the judge goes, well, I overruled. I guess you can answer if you want. Like he was so sick of it at that point. And even the jury laughed. Like, why are you asking that? And the guy goes, well, she's 5'2" and blonde. And he's like, all right. So you went to the business at 836-844 La Brea. And again, I'm cleaning it up. Imagine these long ass sentences. Trust me, listen to the show and imagine, as boring as this show has been, imagine 3 times as boring. So he says that, yeah, I went and taped it to the door. And he goes, well, okay, did you get a photo of it? He goes, well, I taped it to the door. And I went to I'd forgotten my camera. I went to my car to get my camera and took a phone call. And when I came back, the notice was gone. He goes, had it fallen on the ground? He goes, no, I didn't see it on the ground. He goes, I think that obviously someone who lived there had come and torn it off. He goes, well, so you didn't get a picture of it? He goes, no. He goes, did you put up another notice? He goes, well, no, I had already put up a notice. He goes, so for 7 minutes, the notice may have been up, and then you never took a picture of it, and you came back and when it's gone, and you did not replace it with another notice. And he said, well, no, that's not how it's done. He goes, you show up, you put the notice up, and he goes, normally you take a picture. He goes, but I had forgotten my camera in the car, and when I came back, it was gone. So there's nothing you can do about that. He goes, well, no, you're supposed to take a picture. He goes, no, it's not the law. And then fucking Park busts out this California Civil Code, this giant book, and he opens it up and he starts reading aloud from it that there would be proof that had been put up there. And he goes, well, no, there is proof. It was signed by Beverly. He goes, well, no, that's proof that you went out. He goes, I don't have any proof that you put it on the door. Plus, you don't know that you put it on that door. And he goes, yeah, I did. He goes, well, your GPS told you were there, but that doesn't mean you were there. You might not have been at that business. He goes, no, I was there. And they rest. So then Mubasser goes, rebuttal. And he takes his phone and he goes, is this a picture of where you put the sign? And he goes, yes. He goes, do you see the number 836 there at the top? He goes, yes, I do. He goes, do you recognize that? He goes, well, I recognize that doorway. Absolutely. He goes, nothing further. So Mr. Park goes, you recognize that 836? He goes, yes. And he goes, that 836 was not there on the date that you did it. It was done 4 months after you delivered the sign. And the guy goes, well, I didn't say I recognized the number. I recognized the doorway. I was there. My GPS put me there. And he starts laughing. Mubasser starts laughing. Of course, they're having a good time at Mr. Park and his ineptitude. However, Mr. Park is armed with that giant California Civil Code, and he has put doubt in the minds of the jury, folks. So he finishes talking to the white dude, and then they say, hey, do you have any other witnesses? And Mr. Mubasser says, yes, I have some rebuttal witnesses. And it's 11:45, and the judge says, well, hold those until after lunch. And we're in the fucking home stretch. I want out. So we go to lunch. I walk in, the guy goes, Ichi roll? And I go, yes. I go to grab an Ichi roll. They've put mayonnaise and eel sauce all over it. What? I'm like, why did you ruin the Ichi rolls? He goes, what do you mean? I go, they were playing the other days. He goes, oh, there's different chefs. I go, I can't eat this. It's got stuff on it. He goes, well, that's how we normally serve it. I go, I'm not a sauce guy. You should know that by now. So the chef comes out. I go, can you make me a plain Ichi roll? He goes, yes. So he made me a plain Ichi roll. Because I'm an infant. Went and sat down. And the other jurors are going off campus, by the way, for lunch. But I don't want to hang out with them because all I'm going to do is bitch about how horrible this fucking case is. And they're going to go, shut up, we can't talk about it. And I'm going to go, all I want to do is talk about it. I have to bore you with this before I bore other people with it on fucking Wednesday. We finish lunch, get upstairs. Mubasser's got a rebuttal witness he calls. He calls Mr. Young again to ask him more questions. And he says to Mr. Park, they go, Mr. Park, do you have anything for him? Mr. Park goes, I do. And the juror next to me goes, oh, no. Because now it's like fucking 2 p.m. and we just want out. So they finish with their rebuttal witnesses. And then they give us a recess. We go back into the fucking hallway. And it really looks like we're going to be back. Because there's, when we come back, there's going to be the closing statements. So we come back. Mubasser gives his closing statement. Says the word sham no less than 111 times. There's a sham, there's a sham, there's a sham. They're trying to throw these facts. Sham, 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 sham. He sits down, and now it's time for Mr. Park's closing statement. He gets up there with a legal pad and a bottle of water and shaky hands. And he starts to read off of his legal pad. Armed, he's just got a legal pad, a bottle of water, shaky hands. He goes forward, he starts reading. And it reads like a Mad Libs of a closing argument you would pull out of a legal dictionary. But he just filled in the appropriate names wherever he could. And it's just so stilted and awkward. The delivery is bad. Mubasser is smirking, like kind of laughing through it. And he starts objecting. He objects at least 10, 12 times to what he's saying, and it's throwing him off completely. Because he also keeps doing this thing where he's not just talking about the case, but he goes, Mr. Mubasser, he goes, this is an order of declaration. He goes, that's a fancy word for eviction. Mr. Mubasser works for a law firm, and all they do is evict people. They would evict everyone in the world if they could. They'd evict you from your homes if they could. That's what they wanted. Objection, sustained. Keep it to the facts of the case. Well, I'm telling you now, Mr. Mubasser is an evictor. It's what he does. He would evict everyone on the planet if he could. It's objection, sustained. 10 times his objections because he keeps plugging forward. So then he stops, he sips some water, he starts talking some more. And it's terrible. It's just so bad. And then he sips more water and he starts to talk, but then he gets some momentum and he starts to talk and they don't object. And he starts to go and he starts to see the fucking finish line and he keeps talking and he's going on and he's going, you know what? We can't let this stand. We can't let this happen. You can't let just some innocent family be evicted from their business. You can't let them call the entire no to the loan. You have to say no to this. You have to say no to Mr. Mubasser. You have to say no to this eviction. You have to say no to drugs. You have to say no to everything and everybody just starts laughing in the courtroom. The dude says fucking object, sustained, and he's sitting there. He's like, he goes, so yeah, say no to them and make sure, and he finishes in a big flourish and he puts his hands in the air and he sits down. And everybody starts laughing. Why would you say no to drugs? It makes no sense. What does that even mean? But it was perfect because it was exactly who he was as a lawyer. He had no fucking clue what to say. So Mr. Mubasser stands up and smirks, and he gets to rebut the cross, or rebut the fucking final statement. And he goes, well, after that statement, I really don't know where to go, folks. We know how silly that was. And then he starts to talk, and he says sham no less than 81 times. And I will tell you this, it was very effective, his rebuttal of the closing argument, because he eviscerated basically everything he said. Whether what he said was true or not is one thing. But he completely eviscerated every argument that Mr. Park had just put forward, except for say no to drugs. He let that one stand on its own. So we're sitting there, and he goes, all right, I have to read you the instructions before you go and deliberate. This is going to take about a half hour. And I'm looking at the clock, and it's 2:45. So we're going to get the case at like 3:15. And he goes, so I'm going to read them to you. It's going to take about a half hour. You just hang out. And the judge reads them to us. And the judge he's really mean and really short with the lawyers, but he's really friendly with us. Judge Onkeko starts talking. And he reads and he keeps reading and flipping pages. And it took about 25 minutes. He goes, all right, I have about 5 minutes more of instructions, but we're going to take a recess. So 15 minutes, you can go outside, and then we'll come back in. He goes, it's only because I have to talk to the lawyers about some things, and then we will get underway, and we will get you the case today. And so all of us are like, go outside. And there's a group of jurors standing outside, and I walk over, and they're like, do you think we're going to go home today? We got to get out of here, right? We're going to get this case. And I just said, I look and I go, there are 112 light tiles in the ceiling of Department 80 and the 6th floor of the Samuel Mosk Courthouse. There are 132 ceiling tiles surrounding those 112 lighting tiles. There are 8 ceiling tiles with vents or ducts, which I did not include in the count of the 132. And this dude just looks at me and starts laughing, and I'm like, I got to get the fuck out of here. And we're like, yeah, all of us got to get the fuck out of here, right? Because I counted them over and over and over and over.
Oh, fuck.
They call us back, and he reads us the rest of the instructions. He's about to turn us loose for deliberations after the instructions and says, oh, first of all, there are 13 of you. I need to let you know that one of you will be selected as an alternate juror. You will be allowed in the deliberation room, but you cannot speak. You are not allowed in the deliberations. We have a machine here with ping pong balls inside of it, which we will turn on. It works. It's old, but it works. And we will turn it on, and we will pull out the number of a juror, and the person we select will be allowed to stay, but will not be allowed to speak. And I am telling you this, I almost lost my fucking mind. Because in my head, I went, wait a minute. I have slept 9 hours in 4 days. I have sat through this motherfucker with his, are you aware in your capacity as property manager? Are you aware in your personal percipient observation? Are you aware in your personal knowledge that 844-LBLA, LLC, 836-844 South La Brea, Jinho, Leo, Gondo Cafe, fucking chicken anuses. I have listened to these motherfuckers laugh at one another, smirk at one another, say no to drugs in the closing fucking argument. I've stayed awake the whole time with bailiff water thrown in my fucking face. I have stayed here. Are you aware? Are you aware that I sat here and paid attention in your capacity as judge? Are you aware in your personal percipient observation of me as a juror? Are you aware in your personal knowledge of me not sleeping in 3 fucking days that if I sat through this fucking case for 4 fucking days and you pull my goddamn ping pong ball number out of your fucked up lotto machine, I'm going to leave this room not as a fucking juror. I'm going to come back as a fucking defendant. I will burn this place to the fucking ground if you made me listen to all of this shit and you pull my number out and I can't talk in that fucking room. You're kidding me. I lost my fucking mind. And then a ping pong ball machine. Why not just get out a fucking coin flip? Why not first let the air out of a balloon and whoever catches it has to fucking sit there? Fuck you. This is law. This is justice. How does anything get done in this fucking country? 4 days I listened to fucking retards slap one another in the face, and now I'm going to be eliminated from weighing in on the case that I didn't give a fuck about in the first place. I don't want to be here, but now I'm here. I better be fucking involved. So they fucking turn on the machine, and it makes the loudest noise, like this huge, weird popcorn machine noise, and you actually see it. A ball comes like spinning out of it, and they hold it up, and I'm juror number 8, and I close my eyes. I'm just like, if he says 8, I'm gonna lose my fucking mind. I'm serious, because I came so close to losing my mind in the trial, and in my head I'm just going, well, that's probably contempt of court, and that would mean jail probably, because I wanted to yell at the lawyers, speed it the fuck up, quit asking the same thing over and over. All of us did. When I started talking to the other jurors, we all felt the same way. We hated these motherfuckers. I don't know how the country works. So they hold up the ping pong ball, juror number 6. And we look back, and juror number 6 is a Hispanic woman who speaks very little English. Very little English. Somehow wound up on the jury. Figured she'd be balanced off by the smartass who didn't sleep. So they make her stand up, and they give her the thing that says you can go in there and you can sit, but you can't sit at the table. You have to sit at a side chair. Literally, it's like Thanksgiving and she has to sit at the kids' table. And she can't say a word. She can't nod. She can't use her eyes. She can't agree or disagree. She has to observe. She's now the watcher. She's a Hispanic version of the watcher. So, and then they tell her all of this stuff and they go, do you understand? And she just stands there and they go, do you understand? She's like, okay, I guess so. I guess I understand. And she's like, fine. Because apparently she was John Lennon. So, oh, Paul, I understand. I don't know who the fuck that was. That's some Irish guy. Paul, I can't do a Liverpudlian, can I? I can't do it. All right, so, by the way, it's very important for me to stretch this show out and do impressions. Holy shit. Or actually, it's much more important to stretch the show out to prove I can't do impressions. So, we go into the fucking room, and it's this shitbox room with a fridge and a toaster oven. We all walk in and we all sit down at the table, and the bailiff comes in and she starts giving us the speech. And she's like, look, here's the buzzer. You buzz once if you have a question. You buzz 2 if you have a verdict. If you have a question, come in, and it has to be in writing on a form. I will take it to the judge. He will review it, and he will bring you back the answer. And if you have a verdict, go ahead and fill out this form, and you need the foreman. You have to elect a foreman. The foreman signs everything and puts everything in the envelope and then tells us that you're ready. So we say, fine, thank you. She goes, all right, you have to wait till I'm gone. Take care. She splits. She reminds the Hispanic lady that she can't talk, and believe me, she doesn't care. Bailiff leaves, the door closes. We sit down, and they haven't brought us the evidence. She goes to get the evidence. And someone says, well, are we supposed to start deliberating? And then someone goes, well, we need a foreman. We need to get a foreman. And there's a girl at the table who stands up, and she points at me, and she goes, well, it's him, right? And I look at her, and there's 3 other women on that side of the table. They go, oh, yeah, it's him, definitely. And I go, I'm what? And they go, you're the foreman. And the other guys are like, all right, well, yeah, I guess so. We can go along with that. You're the foreman. And I can't even, why? What authority have I have a bubble with a Z in it over my head. Why the fuck are you joining me and making me the foreman? And it turns out I'm sitting at the head of the table, and this one guy goes, "You shouldn't have sat in that chair." And I said, "What?" And he goes, "Yeah." He goes, "That's obviously the foreman chair. I mean, she picked you right away." I said, "All right, I'm the foreman. Everybody sit down. Shut up." And they laughed, and we sat down. And then I said, "All right, my name's Mike, if anybody cares." And there's complete silence. Like, nobody answers. Nobody gives me their name back. Nobody's friendly. Because I don't know. Maybe I think after the fact we're not supposed to give our names. I have no idea. But I do know this. I said, I'm Mike, if anybody cares. And there's a beat of silence. And there's a guy who was sitting next to me. He was number 17, I think. But he's in the room. He's a guy from Pasadena. And he just goes, "I don't care." And he gets a big laugh. And I laughed. And we start talking about the case. So, and I told you, I went into this case with one thing in my head. Pay your bills and this shit doesn't happen. That's exactly what I thought. So they bring in the evidence. And there was one thing I really wanted to see. They said there was a post-dated check. They were 4 payments behind. Whatever. There was no doubt that they owed money. Okay? And the restaurant itself is closed, but they are living in the upstairs part of the restaurant now, and they don't want to leave. That's their residence, and that's what these people are trying to do. This company, what was the name of it again? I don't think I remember. Fuck, I only heard it 14 million times over the course of 4 days. Oh, wait, 844 LBLA LLC. Yeah, it was them. And they're talking about the property at 836 to 844 South La Brea. That was the Ogando Cafe that specializes in chicken anuses. Anyway, they want the building back so they can do whatever the fuck they're going to do with it. So we start talking, and there was a guy next to me. I don't want to say that I met a few of the jurors and got their names later. I don't want to say his name, but he was a real smart guy. And he had taken notes throughout the trial. A lot of people had taken notes. I did not, but I can remember stuff, kind of, even in my fucking incapacitated state. And what the fuck do I need to remember? Point of parliamentary procedure and all the other bullshit? Are you aware? That's all you're aware that I can remember all these idiots who are terrible lawyers? Yes. So he opens up his thing and he asks some questions. And then there's a beat. And before he continued talking, this one woman at the end of the table goes, "Before we do any of this, can we all agree that those were the worst lawyers we've ever seen?" And I as the foreman, I'm just like, as the foreman, I agree. Can we all agree on that? Yes, we can. And I was amazed because I did not get to talk to everybody. I talked in passing to a few people in the hallway to get some opinions. But all 12 of us were horrified at the performance in this courtroom. All of us were having trouble understanding how anything gets done in America if this is what's bogging down the courts. Because, you've always heard there's too many lawyers. All right. There has never been a greater argument for too many lawyers than these two motherfuckers I had to watch work, quote unquote, for 4 fucking days. They were terrible. Ill-fitting suits, 5 o'clock shadow, smirking at one another, making fun of one another, cutting each other off. I mean, just terrible and not good, with no cogent points. Just at each other's throats like children. So we all agreed on that point. Then they brought the evidence in. We started to review things. All of us had a problem with the 3-day notice. Where is Mr. Crawford? Why has he disappeared into thin air? And why can nobody speak to the fact that he dropped those things off for sure? Because they weren't, they're certified mail that wasn't even signed for. You can see it on the sheet. And we have a mailman. There's a guy who's a mailman, and he goes, you would sign for certified mail. And also, there's like 20 other certificates of certified mail that have been signed for. And also, they were signed some of them were signed for by Ogando Valet, which means the guy who parks cars outside, they pulled up and said, "Hey, sign this." And he did, and they handed him an envelope and drove away. That's fucking horseshit. So all of us are trying to figure out where Mr. Crawford went. We're trying to figure out the 3-day notice. We're looking through. We're seeing the amounts they were charged. And I'm like, look, devil's advocate too. These people are like 6 months behind on their payments. I go, are we really prepared to find in their favor when they've defaulted completely on the loan? And everybody said, well, yeah, because there is procedure. There are things that have to be followed. They need to be given this 3-day notice, this trustee sale. I should tell you this, I forgot to mention. When they asked him about the trustee sale, and he said it was placed in Metropolitan Circulations, Inc., which is a newspaper in Los Angeles, Mr. Park then asked him, and he goes, "What newspaper?" And he goes, "I don't know." He goes, "What do you mean you don't know?" He goes, "Well, that was the publishing company. We gave them the ad, and they published it." He goes, "In what newspaper?" He goes, "I don't know. I couldn't tell you." So we don't have any proof that this ran for a day, let alone 3 fucking weeks, because we don't have the name of a publication. We have a picture of it, a Xerox of the actual classified ad, but there's no banner, headline, there's no front page. We don't know what the publication was or the dates. So that's another strike. Then we start to talk about the fact that this mobster woman fled to Korea. You know, the woman known for these hard cash loans all throughout Koreatown. And the fact that the other woman didn't sign the fucking bookkeeping reports and had her husband do it. And she works for free. And, you know, and I couldn't understand the dog thing either. We just brought that up as a joke, like why that was in there. That was just to obfuscate things even further. But it was the 3-day notice that was a killer. It was the woman who fled to Korea and can't be discussed. Mr. Crawford, who disappeared into thin air. And the really big one was the guy who said he taped a notice to the door, walked away, came back 7 minutes later, and it was gone. And never notified them, never put up another notice. And also, he placed a classified ad in a newspaper that we couldn't identify. So we sent out a question to the judge at one point. We talked, and it was great. I got to be honest, man. Everybody, for as mind-numbingly tedious and as soul-crushing as this entire process was, all 12 jurors were engaged. All of them had opinions, all of them had ideas, and all of them came in and were willing to hear other people's sides of it too, and asked questions. Nobody was set in their ways. Nobody was pissed. We were happy to get the case and happy to talk about it and decide it. And like I said, I would present devil's advocate about, you know, these people don't pay their bills and they're squatting in a building. And then everybody else would say, well, what about this though? And I saw they completely, because I agree, I was on board with those things. Just, were we willing to give a guy a building when he hasn't paid for it? But then we started to talk about it and we recognized, you know, we really aren't, because they've been in court with this since fucking 2010. They'll just be in court again in 3 weeks, no matter what we decide. So we sent a question to the judge. We wanted to know, when Mr. Park pulled out that giant city code book and started reading aloud about the taping of the notice and the taking a photograph and all those things, is that official? Is that something that is definite that a guy has to do? Does he have to have a photograph? And does he have to be knowledgeable that someone who lives there has seen the notice that he put on the door? Or can he just put a notice on the door and walk away? So we sent that question out in writing, and we did not get an answer back. They looked at it for a good 20 minutes and they never sent an answer back. Well, it didn't matter, because as they were doing that, the newspaper ad, the disappearing Mr. Crawford, the mobster who fled to Korea, Colonel Mustard with the fucking candlestick, all of it came into play. And we all kind of decided the same thing. We were of a like mind, because the first question you have to answer is, did plaintiff give defendant ample notice that they would be evicted before calling the loan, and give them proper notification that they had to pay and make good? It was phrased in much better legalese, but who am I, Mr. Park? Say no to drugs, folks. So, and the thing is, if you answer no to that question, you're done. There's 8 other questions to answer, but only if you say yes to them consecutively. But if you say no to question 1, there's no reason to proceed. So we went around the table, and we took one vote. And we said, who feels this way? And it was unanimous. All of us felt that it was a no. I filled out the form and I signed it, put it in the envelope, buzzed twice. By now, it's about 20 after 4. She pops her head in. And it was funny, when she had popped her head in a couple of other times, she was like, you guys close? Like she wanted us out. And I will tell you this. I fantasized for days of being the foreman and being led back into the jury box to read aloud the verdict. But before doing so, just scorched earthing the fuck out of the entire process. Like, just letting both lawyers have it, and how they wasted our time, and just destroy them and tell them how unprofessional we all felt they were. I mean, not kidding, for days I thought of the statement that I was going to give when I were to walk in there, and I was going to just fucking excoriate the two of them for wasting everyone's time and ruining what should have been an interesting experience. So I put the thing in the envelope and I walked in, and I'm sitting there and I'm waiting to get called upon to stand up. And in my head, I'm like, should I do that? I go, well, fuck, it's over. What's he going to do? Find me in contempt? Because I had talked to the other jurors too, and they were like, they said, because I should tell you this too. Going back to the first day, all right, Friday, the first recess we took for lunch, when we'd been in there for 2 hours, and we'd heard, or an hour, just not even, like an hour before the Endeavor, and we heard the opening arguments and the objections and the bullshit, I knew then, I sniffed it out then how bad it was going to be. And I stood up and I said, Judge, can I speak to you? And he was like, yeah. So I waited and I walked to approach the bench, and all the jury was gone. They went to go see Endeavor, but the lawyers and the guys were still in there. And I said, no, can I talk to you privately? He goes, oh, no. He goes, if you talk to me, you have to talk to me in the presence of counsel. He goes, there'll be time after the case if you want to speak to me. And I said, okay. Because I was going to ask him, literally, I was going to look at him and go, is it always this? Is this what we have to look forward to? And is this what you preside over every day? That was the first recess of the second day. I was going to ask him that. So again, I had these grandiose ideas. Over the weekend, I thought about just fucking leveling the entire courtroom and just this blast of verbosity. And then when I got in the room, it turned out everybody goes, hey, who's going to talk to the judge after this? And everybody goes, I am. We all are. So I go in and I'm holding the verdict. I go and I sit down. And the judge is like, well, Mr. Schmidt, apparently you're the foreman. So you have the verdict? And I go, yes. And he goes, it's all prepared. You've signed. You've dated it. And I said, absolutely. He said, it's in your envelope. I said, it is. He goes, okay, can you hand it to bailiff? And she'll hand it to the court reporter who gets to lead it aloud to the courtroom. Oh. Fuck. And part of me wanted to go, you sure? But I knew we all wanted to get the fuck out of there. And literally, that was another thing that kept me from giving any big speech. We just wanted to fucking go. We'd been beaten into submission. So I took the envelope and I handed it to the bailiff. She gave it to the court reporter. And everybody's sitting there waiting. Mubasir's there with his people, and Park's there with Jin Ho Lee. And she opens it up, gives it to the judge. He looks at it, hands it to the court reporter. And she reads it aloud. And she reads that we have found basically in favor of Jin Ho Lee, the defendant. Signed Michael Glenn Schmidt, this date. And I'll be honest with you, I was really stunned when we read it. Because I expected Park to jump up and click his heels and be as unprofessional as possible. Because, again, they had fought like assholes the entire time. But he sat there completely reserved. He was bouncing his leg like really fiercely. And then when they read it, you saw him kind of clench his fists. And Mubasir didn't react except to start putting his stuff away. And the judge said, all right, would you like to poll the jury? And Mubasir goes, no, Your Honor. He starts putting everything away. And, all right, he goes, well, counsel, we'll have to adjust, and there is much more paperwork we have to take care of. Mr. Park, do you want to poll the jury? He goes, no, Your Honor, I'm fine. And nobody smiled. Nobody high-fived. It was just over. And we finished. And he looked at us, and he thanked us for our service. He said we were part of the family, part of the law family in Los Angeles. He goes, you've been through it all. You went through the Space Shuttle Endeavor on Friday. You've been through this case, recesses, lunches, and you're here now. And anytime you want to come back and visit, anytime you'd like to sit in on a court proceeding, you let me know. Because it was a pleasure to have you in my courtroom. Thank you very much. He goes, does anyone have any questions for me? And like the entire jury goes, yes, we all do. He's like, all right, well, I'll take you in chambers. I'll see you in chambers. And he goes, all right, otherwise everybody's dismissed. Thank you. And he lets us go. And we walk over, and I would say probably 9 of us went into the room. And he opens the door, and he takes the robe off. And he was naked under it, which was weird. No, he's wearing nice clothes. And we walked in, and he's like, hello. He's like, thank you so much for your service. And he shook hands, and he said, all right, questions? And there was a hesitancy, because we didn't think honestly, I didn't want to disrespect him, because he had tried. He hustled them through things. He kept shutting them up. And he was doing his best, I felt. And he was very elegant, and he spoke well to us. He did not speak down to us. He didn't condescend. So there's a beat of silence, and a woman finally goes, Judge, is it always, and there's silence, and I go, that? And he looks, and he just goes, no. These are the 2 worst attorneys I've ever dealt with in my 25 years in a courtroom. He says, I've been a judge here since 2002. And practicing law before that. And this is the worst experience I've had in a courtroom. And I'm sorry you all had to be a part of it. And there's this sigh of relief where we go, oh my God, thank you. They were awful, right? They were terrible. And he goes, they were terrible. And he goes, and there's things you don't know, things you didn't see. Throwing papers at one another, shoving in chambers, because it's much, much worse. There's been fines. and I'm not done because we still have to do things with them. And he goes, I don't want to. And he goes, and someone said, well, it's not over, right? He goes, oh no, they'll be back in court in 3 weeks doing the same exact thing they just did here. He goes, but yeah, there were sanctions because I've been babysitting this entire time. And so we then said, and all of us were so relieved. Then the avalanche came out. We're like, why did they keep thanking you? And he goes, I told them not to. And they just continued. And we go, why did they keep saying the people's names? He goes, I don't know. I don't know why they would say Mr. Lee over. And he goes, I admonished them not to. And they would over and over. And then everyone's like that closing statement that say no to drugs. And he goes, yeah, I don't understand any of it. I don't. And I said, but I go, we know what's even worse. I go, Mr. Mubasser, I go, he was no better than the other guy. The other guy's terrible. We get that. He's the worst ever. He goes, but Mubasser might have been a day more better. And he goes, yeah, absolutely. He goes, this was terrible. I can't stress enough to you what an awful experience this is. And please don't think that this is what it's like. I go, because I was going to ask you why you're a judge, like why you would even sit here and go through this. And he goes, no, it's not like that. And then the other jurors had great questions too. And they asked him, and I said, listen to me, if they were more competent, are we out of here Friday? And he goes, no, definitely yesterday. And he goes, you'd have had the case by Monday afternoon and been out of here yesterday. We would not have had to come back today. He goes, they cost you at least a day. He said, but yeah, it's awful. I'm very sorry. He could not apologize more. And everybody was very nice, and they asked everybody got questions, and there was a lovely woman on the jury who was really smart. Everybody was smart. That was the thing. I even said that to him, and I go, we were the smartest people in the room, all of us. I go, they were terrible. And he's like, yeah, it's like we couldn't. It was like being rescued from an island and having to tell the guy who captains the ship how awful it was on the island for the past year. And he's like, I understand, I was on that island. And you're like, no, dude, you don't get it. It was terrible. And it was just relief to be leaving. And so all of us were nice, and we shook hands, and we took off. And as I'm walking out, I waited. I was the last guy. And I should tell you, when he thanked us, he thanked everyone. He goes, I'd like to thank anybody who came and took their time, anyone who had to adjust their biological clock to join us and still paid attention. He was very friendly about it. And then I walked out, and I was the last guy, and I looked him in the eye, and I put my hand out, and he shook my hand, and I said, I was furious to be chosen. He goes, I heard that in the hallway. I said, oh. I said, well, now I'm glad I was. And he said, we knew we weren't letting you get away. We knew you'd be a good one. So if it means anything, you weren't leaving. And I'm like, all right. And it was so funny to shake his hand and tell him I was happy to be there, because I wasn't. I mean, I wasn't at all, but I just felt like I didn't want to disrespect him and leave him thinking that we were just giving him this bombardment of terrible news. But I had Stockholm Syndrome at that point. I didn't fucking care. Literally, I was thanking my captor for having kept me for 4 days. Then I zombied my way back to my car and fucking headed home. And I got home last night, and I was like, and I had to work. So I didn't get home again until, like I said, 6:30. I tried to grab an hour before work, was able to get an hour and a half, and then went to work. And I had the whole time waiting to come home and sleep today. And sure enough, I went to sleep at 6:30, but then I woke up at 12:30, you know, because I knew I had to be here. So in my head, I'm like, all right, you can't, I didn't want to be here super late, even though I fucked that up. But yeah, I was trying to get my body clock back, and it's not back. I mean, I'll be up tonight doing shit and all that kind of stuff. And I should tell you this, when I left the courthouse, I walked into, I had been taking you take notes. I was not taking any notes about the case. I was taking notes so I would remember names and shit to tell you guys. So I wrote them on my badge, my juror badge, because they make you destroy any notes you take in your notepad. So I wrote stuff on my juror badge, and it was written all over the badge. So I go walking out, and when you go downstairs, you have to get your certificate that says you served or you're dismissed. They want your badge back because you can use it to park for free down there if you don't. And I said, well, I already parked. And she goes, well, no, just give me your badge. I go, I think I left it upstairs. It was in my pocket. I wanted it for the notes. And she goes, no, you've got it. I know you do. I said, no, I may have left it upstairs. It might be in my bag, but I can check. But when it's not that big a thing. And she goes, no, it is, because you can park. And I go, no, I already parked. She goes, no, you can free park forever. And you can't do that. And I went, all right, you got to do me a favor. She goes, what? And I go, I was taking notes on my badge, and they're notes that I need for my show. And she goes, I knew you were fibbing. I said, can you do me a favor and make me a Xerox of either side, both sides of the badge, and I'll give it to you. And she goes, yeah. So I handed it to her, and she did. She made me the other side. She goes, on the condition that you talk about how great the 3 ladies who work in the actual courthouse were. So I may have mentioned that earlier to you folks, that they put on a floor show, but it's quality. It's an amazing floor show. And I may have said that I didn't care for it very much, and I may have alluded to the fact that I was bored with it, and I put it in my earbuds, and maybe it didn't mean that much to me, but I got to be honest, after sitting through what I sat through in the fucking courtroom for 4 days, these women were the fucking Pointer Sisters as far as I was concerned. A polished act I would pay to see again and again and again. And I don't know if you've been on jury duty or you're ever going to be on jury duty. And I don't know if this story or the other story I told about jury duty has illuminated you at all, whether you want to go or you don't want to go, interesting or not interesting. Because I had people who told me how to get out of it, and I had people who told me that it was a great civics lesson. It's something I should really enjoy doing. And I got to say, I fall somewhere in the middle on that. If it would have been a decent court case, maybe I would have been more interested. But the fact that I wanted to murder everybody in the fucking room, that didn't help. But again, I don't want to cloud your feelings about it. If you think you'd be interesting, like Lily does, and you want to get on a trial, go ahead. Hopefully you get called. If you want to try to get out of it, I'm sure 800 friends have ideas about how you're going to get out of it. But I will say this. Are you aware, in your personal percipient observation, in your personal knowledge, in your capacity as listeners to this podcast, that you guys can get me at mike@MikeSchmidtComedy.com? That you can be my friend on Facebook.com/the40year-old-boy. You can follow me on Twitter at Twitter.com/the40year-old-boy. You can follow our friend Lily Von Stupp on 2 different Twitter accounts, Twitter.com/MNTs and Twitter.com/Lily Von Stupp. If you'd like to be her friend at Facebook, go to Facebook.com/Lily Von Stupp. If you'd like to be our friend David Hernandez's friend, he does all the artwork and the commercials for this show, go to Facebook.com/David Mex Hernandez. But if you want to reach out, folks, if you want to go ahead and write a personal note to my friend Lily, and find out exactly how many doctors she has on speed dial that'll see me for free, go ahead and write her a note at lily@burlesque411.com. That's Lili at burlesque411.com.
Must drink your coffee, must hold some pencils, must soak your forks deep, must hold more pencils, must on these mugs. This flame bush mini on these mugs. Go buy these wicked awesome mugs at MikeSchmidtComedy.com. Mugs, 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 mugs.
Want to remind you folks about the Monday Night Teas every Monday night at the 3 clubs on Santa Monica and Vine. 10 o'clock show every week. I happen to know that it's the longest running, most successful, most amazing burlesque show in the history of the city of Los Angeles. If you remember the scene in Los Angeles Confidential, LA Confidential, where they went to the burlesque house, that was actually the Monday Night Teas that they had invaded, looking for crime and drugs. And you'll never find those there. You'll only find beautiful ladies. I happen to know the producer of that show. Her name is Lily Von Stupp. She's also my producer, and she's sitting right here. Hey, Lily.
Hi, Michael.
Would you like to write that I'm an idiot a few more times?
No, you said it. I thought it was funny.
Okay.
Apparently, you did not.
No, it's hysterical. I loved it. I know that you want me out of your house. Let's hurry this up. I know you had the tease this week, and the Lilacs was in town.
Yes.
I liked the costume. You showed me the costume. That was fantastic.
Pictures will go up soon.
Well, I want to hear it. That's more important to me because I saw the snippets that you posted online. I was very impressed with what you had written. So I want to hear the rest of it. And you said you were going to possibly put together a visual
An
Tumblr?
audio-visual presentation on YouTube.
I see. Reading the Lilac story.
We'll be reading it, and we'll do pictures from the show.
Cool. I like that. I'm looking forward to seeing that. But the show was a success?
The show was really amazing.
This was different because you did a thought-provoking show regarding women's rights and the right to vote and the election, and not really a bit specific about this election, but more about women's rights in the country we live in now and where they're going and where they've been. And I'm sorry I missed it, unfortunately, but I'm looking forward to the thing that you put up online. And you had some really kind of thought-provoking acts regarding...
We did. We dealt with medical marijuana. We dealt with gender bending. We dealt with abortion. We dealt with single parents. We dealt with rape. We dealt with body image disorders.
You have just described the last 2 episodes of Kojak that I watched.
We dealt with the marketing and hypersexualization of women.
Perfect.
And we dealt with the non-existence of God and religion within the political system.
All right. With tits. All of that with tits.
With tits.
And it came off. It worked great. People liked it. People were impressed.
Actually, the feedback was amazing. And we gave out like 15 voter registration cards, raised awareness about women's issues to some people who hadn't really thought about it other than in the closed perspective of their life.
Yeah. Do you think you'll do the show again?
I doubt it. Unless in 4 years things haven't changed.
Yeah, let's hope we don't do the show again. Exactly.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a good point.
I had my little unless that I made and all the little rocks. And
Yeah.
at the end of the show, one of my friends said, "What do you want me to pack those up?" And I said, "No, I'm not going to keep them because I don't think I'll do this again." And then one of my friends went, "How about if I hold them in my garage?"
Just in case.
Just in case.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, okay.
Although at your show, let me hold that in my garage means something completely different. So, well, good. I'm glad it went well. I was excited, and you were excited for weeks and weeks.
I was
Really looking
very
forward
proud
to
of
it. Good.
Yeah.
And this week is a theme show coming up?
This week is not a theme show.
Regular show, Monday Night Tease show. Just fantastic. That's the theme.
Straight vaudeville burlesque variety type show.
Sweet. And are you performing or hosting?
I am not. Rob the Balloon Guy will be hosting and performing.
I enjoy
Captain
Rob.
Creep will be doing some ventriloquism. I've got Bobby Baltimore in town out of Las Vegas, and very excited to have Lara LaBelle out of Australia.
Fantastic. You know what you should do is recap the entire show like you just did, but leave out the ventriloquist because now nobody will come. Because people hate that.
It's a Halloween creepy variety act, so it's fun. I'm not a huge fan of ventriloquism unless it's like goofy funny, but this actually made me laugh, and I enjoyed it.
All right. But that's what you should be booking. Yeah, that's the kind of thing you should be having at the show. So go check out the Monday Night Tease. Tickets are available at brownpapertickets.com for not only this week's show, but also the next 5 weeks, I think. Shows tickets are available. They've been announced. You can go to facebook.com/Monday Night Tease for any and all blurbs and pictures and photos and things like that. And also you can follow them again at Twitter at twitter.com/MNTees. And you can go to burlesque411.com for any and all information you would need. But Brown Paper Tickets is where you need to go to get tickets to any of the shows that are coming up in the next 5 weeks. And also look for announcements for November, including the Prince show, which will be coming up. And I'm excited about that. Yeah. And I know some people are already buying tickets for that once they go on sale. So that'll be great. Exciting. You guys can go, like I said, to facebook.com/the40year-old-boy and be my friend there. And also, I am way behind. To be running in the Warrior Dash and then going to Milwaukee for 4 days and then being caught on jury duty and not being able to sleep kind of fucked me up as far as responding to people. And that's because I'm shitty at it on my phone. I don't trust my thumbs, because if you make one spelling error, if your thumb hits the wrong fucking thing or if autocorrect does the wrong thing on Facebook, you can't correct it from your app. So I refuse to post on Facebook from my phone. I did a bunch just because I finally got so bored on these 2-hour fucking lunches that I made myself do it. And also answering on Twitter is the same way. It's just I'd much rather do it at a keyboard because I'm an old man, folks. I just read a story. They were talking about how old people text with their thumbs and that young people don't. Young people use like their whole hand and their whole fingers. And I'm like, I tried it and I'm old because I can't text with all my fingers. Like I type with my fingers on a keyboard, but to do it in that small of a space and to try to make it happen, I can type really quickly with my thumbs, much more quickly than I can with my fingers. God damn, who cares, right? Look, my thumbs are amazing, folks. The rest of my fingers can do work too, but my thumbs, that's exactly what you're looking for. So I don't even know why I brought that up. But go to facebook.com/the40year-old-boy and be my friend on there. And I will get caught up on Twitter and Facebook in the next few days because I'm way behind, as I mentioned. Also, there are the pages to bring me to people's towns. Detroit, there's been no movement made on anything because, again, I've been very busy for the past week or so. But Detroit, of course, San Antonio exists, Montreal, Hampton Roads, Virginia, Eugene, Oregon, all of these cities that want me to come to their town. They have them all listed there on the page. I'm coming to town. Actually, I'll be in Philadelphia in a couple of weeks at the Latvian Society. Hey, Philadelphia, buy some tickets. That would be cool. I know you're going to buy some in the last week, but if you bought some early, I would have a general idea of whether I'm going to get really fucked or just really fucked on this trip. But come out to the Latvian Society, October 19th. Tickets available right now for that show. And also, November 16th at the Soulard Hall in St. Louis, Missouri. I've actually sold more tickets now for St. Louis than I have for Philadelphia. Not many more. That doesn't mean you can stop St. Louis. Please keep buying tickets. That'd be great. And I went to book my flight and all that squared away, so St. Louis is square. And let's throw a shout out here to our friend David Watson. who picked up my hotel in Atlanta and has now picked up my hotel in Philadelphia, which was amazing. He's going to be in Philadelphia on business when I'm there. So I said, dude, if you want to go to dinner or something, he's going to let me know. But thank you, David, for picking up the hotel in Philadelphia. I certainly appreciate it. So tickets are available right now at brownpapertickets.com for my shows in Philadelphia at the Latvian Society, Friday, October 19th, and in St. Louis, November 16th at the Soulard Hall. And again, remember, there's the other cities. You can join those pages and go ahead and square up and get me to come to your towns. I would love to, and I will start looking in earnest in the next couple of weeks because I'm going to be home squared away doing that. I'd love to get stuff before the end of the year. I don't know if it's going to happen. Who knows? But before those shows, before I'm out of town, remember that October 12th, 13th, and 14th is the Los Angeles Podcast Festival. I will be doing a show on Sunday, I believe in the afternoon at 4 o'clock. They haven't switched anything, haven't moved anything just yet. They want me to do stand-up on Saturday night. I have to be honest, I don't know if I'm going to. I'm still up in the air about it because I can control the podcast. If I have to go on a whole bunch of comics, hey, whatever the fuck, you don't need to peek into my head. You know who I am. I can control my show. All right, if I go on Saturday, and especially what if I go on Saturday night and I bomb? Who the fuck's going to want to come see me on Sunday? They're going to be like, fuck, I saw that guy eat it last night. There's no point in coming on Sunday. So I'm still deciding. I'm on the fence about it. But the Los Angeles Podcast Festival with, the Naughty Show with Sam Tripoli, Doug Benson, the Sklar Brothers, Never Not Funny, of course, is going to be there. And Greg Barrett and Dave Anthony are bringing Walking the Room. Probably Science, which is Andy Wood's podcast, is going to be involved. There's a million shows. The Comedy Film Nerds, who are the main guys with Andy and Dave, they started this. Graham Elwood and Chris Mancini, they'll be performing. Jackie Cation, Aisha Tyler, everybody. So it's a great show, great cause. Great cause, who knows? But they want your money. So go buy tickets. There's 3-day packages available at the hotel where you can stay there and actually kind of hang out and see all the shows as much as you can. There's all sorts of podcasting seminars and discussion groups. I think I'm on one of those, but I don't know yet. I haven't been officially notified. But I'm definitely performing, and I'm pretty sure it's Sunday afternoon at 4 o'clock. So you can buy tickets, individual tickets for days, or you can buy tickets for the entire 3-day weekend and have a great time. I'm hoping to hang out at least a little bit while I'm there. Should be fun. Come on out to the show. And I'm still deciding what to do on that show, but who knows? You'll know if you come. Remember to go to MikeSchmidtComedy.com and go to the Joe Business page. There are plenty of things available there. There are shirts available, Scar, Panda, and Red Boy. There are mugs available at the Zazzle store through JoeBusiness.com, or MikeSchmidtComedy.com, the Joe Business page. There's Fireboy and Thorgar and Yeep. Yes, I'm talking quickly because I'm trying to get out of here. There's the autographed IDs and artwork available through the Joe Business page. And there's also the Year 1, Year 2, Year 3, and Year 4 download sets available individually or together as a group as part of the Podcast of the Caribbean set. Who doesn't want to have on stranger mics in their house? You definitely want it, folks. So go ahead and pick those up. Like I said, there's the autographed the tickets available, the shirts, all of that stuff is available at the Joe Business page. Buy them now. That would be great, and I will ship them immediately. And I'll throw this out, too. My friend Danny Nagy wrote me and said, hey, why didn't I get my Cleveland shirt from Kickstarter? Well, I mailed it, Danny. I have the list of all the things that I mailed, and I checked with the post office, and they can't find it. So I think it was a large. I'll write you as well, by the way, via email. I don't know why I'm doing this just here, but I hope you know that I did send it because you got 2 shirts. You actually had a DC shirt and a Cleveland shirt, and I saw you in DC. But I don't recall seeing you in Cleveland. Whatever the fuck, who cares? I owe you a shirt. I have a large Cleveland. I think that's what you need. So that's what I sent the last time. Anyway, so I will contact you via email to make sure. But I just wanted to make sure you know on here, if you hear this, that I did not shirk you. I did not forget you. And all the Kickstarter people have been, if you haven't gotten anything, let me know. Everybody should have everything except your phone calls. And those are going to come in a blizzard on like one day in November. I'm going to sit down and call all of you. I may just do a conference call and just patch you all in together. And we'll all talk and have a great time. So that's great. The shirts are available. Everybody order stuff, buy stuff, and have it sent to you. LA Podcast Festival, Comedy Film Nerds book, available via comedyfilmnerds.com or also at amazon.com. If you want a signed copy by me, make sure you go through comedyfilmnerds.com. And now this idiot can leave Lily into her house alone. Let her be by herself and not have to deal with me being a pill sitting here staring at her or staring at a wall and all that kind of stuff. I'll tell you this, I have not slept. You can probably hear my voice now is actually wearing out here at the end. But I have to go home today, and I want to be back into my schedule. It's not like I'm going to go home and sleep. I'm going to go home tonight, and I got to do the Facebook stuff, Twitter stuff, all the email blast, and I enjoy having my time off. That was the thing. That was another thing that pissed me off so much about it. I knew it was going to kick my days off in the ass. Thursday and Friday, I knew we were going to be fucked because I had to go there and stay up and do this. And then work was even worse on top of it. But I was groggy tired, like that weird where you wake up and you feel like you have a cold or the flu, but you don't. It's just that you haven't slept and you're trying to get through it and you're zombified. So I would wake up in the morning after an hour of sleep and I would stagger into the shower and, I brush my teeth in the shower. I was trying to consolidate too, because you do that thing where you try to sleep every last minute. So I would do that and I would wake up right away and I knew I had to drive. Remember I said I was a little bit late getting to the courtroom? Here's why, folks. I shouldn't even fucking say this. Who cares? Whatever. I woke up late. Not late. I was actually on time when I woke up. I slept every last minute that I possibly could. I had to be downtown at the courthouse at 9:30, so I slept until like 5 after 8. And I knew that I would get a shower, get dressed, and get out of the house. So I get up and I stagger into the bathroom and I put some toothpaste on the toothbrush and I get in the shower with the toothbrush. I'm brushing my teeth in the shower. I had flossed the night before when I went to sleep. Finished brushing my teeth and I put in wash my hair. And I put the mouthwash in my mouth and I get squared away. I take a shower like a normal human being would. I walk out, I get dried off, I get dressed. I'm kind of walking around. I start to pack my cooler because I bring some Propels with me to the courthouse. I start putting my stuff in and I go and I have no shirt on, just a pair of jeans. And I'm walking around. I got my shoes and socks on. And I got to do my hair before I throw on my shirt because I don't want it to get all fucked up. I'm a weirdo. So I have to slick my hair back with that gunk that I've been putting in my hair. And I've got like 5 different kinds of gunk. I've got a Redken, which I really like. I got a fucking Paul Sebastian. I still have the stuff Jill gave me from last year. I mean, I got all this hair stuff. So it's on the shelf, and I reached in and I grabbed it, and I just fucking squirted it in my hand, and I go in the room, and I slick my hair back in the bathroom, and my hands, like it felt super like loose, because normally it's gel, and you put just a dot of it on your finger. It was kind of loose, but I didn't think about it, and I rubbed it together in my hands, and I slicked my hair back, and it wasn't holding my hair. And normally it holds it right away, and then I just brush my hair, but it was kind of slick. It felt like conditioner almost. Like, you know how you condition your hair and your hair's real soft? So I put it in my hair and I was wondering, what the fuck, why isn't my hair gel working? So I went to grab my brush and I go in, and on my shelf where I keep my razors and my shampoo and my soaps and my floss and my Carmex and my brushes and all of my hair products. On the right-hand side, there's my Paul Sebastian microfiber. Now, I didn't use that because I would have had to take the cap off, and that's a thick lotion-looking stuff. And then there's my Paul Mitchell that Jill gave me, and that's a giant bottle, okay? And that's a squeeze bottle. And then there's my Redken, which is a pump, okay? And they're all sitting right there, and they're untouched. But sitting right next to them, open, right alongside my hair gel, would be lube. Lube that normally sits on my bedside table for fancy hand job. Lube that normally shares a space with my clock on my bedside table next to my bed that doesn't exist anymore. My wife grabbed it, the lube itself, and put it on my shelf because, again, I guess I'm the one who uses it, so it's there. And in my zombified state, I grabbed it, squirted it into my hand, and rubbed it into my hair to use it as fucking hair gel. Lube. So I got a head full of Astroglide there, folks, which fucking worked because I was going to spend most of the day with my head up my own ass listening to those idiots anyway. So I had to get undressed. I got undressed and I had to get back in the shower and wash my hair and condition my hair again to get the lube out of my hair so I could go to the courtroom. That's why I was late getting there on Monday. So I guess the lesson here is just keep your eyes open, folks. Head on a swivel. Don't blindly do your hair. If you know for a fact that you've got some Astroglide hanging out there, if you've got a jar of wet, keep it as far away from your jar of hair gel as you possibly can. Not just because you'll use it by accident, but because it doesn't work. I have to be truly honest. If the lube had somehow worked on my hair and I was able to cut it back, I would have just kept it. I wouldn't have fucking cared. You think anybody in the courtroom is going to notice I got a head full of lube? I already look like fucking Pat Riley anyway. Fuck, if the lube would have styled my hair, it would have stayed there. But unfortunately, its main crime was that it didn't work. So lube, not so good for friction on the hair, folks. So that's my... because I have a tone. Because you know why? Because I talk quickly and I don't fucking think. That's why. I think that's what it means when you have a tone. Is you don't fucking bother to care what comes flying out of your goddamn mouth. I try to grow the show and I want people to get on board and they're like, I listen to it and you talk too fast. Really, I talk too fast. How the hell else am I supposed to cram all of this into a small 3-hour window? Dude, there's no script. I just go with this shit on the fly. It makes me laugh. If it doesn't make you laugh, turn the fucking station. And by turn the station, I mean turn the wheel of your car right into a guardrail. Jesus fuck. Hey, where you going, boy?